All right, welcome to Monsters of Geek. I guess special edition here on YouTube as we discuss maybe the worst named pay-per-view in the history of pay-per-views. Great Balls of Fire, the very first WB pay-per-view under the Great Balls of Fire banner. I don't know why they didn't go with the Great American Bash or something. I'm not for sure. I think that I guess because of the tie-in with Rocket League, maybe. I guess that's the only thing that I could figure out. But it is one of the worst names that I have. Great main event, terrible pay per view. At least we hope to be a great main event tonight. Joe's here with us today. Our resident Yeti, Jared, may come on a little bit later in the stream here. Definitely the biggest match of the night, Joe, is Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. I mean, we were texting before, and I said I feel like if Samoa Joe does win, that it's Heyman that turns on Brock Lesnar tonight. If you know the history of Brock and Heyman, that isn't something that hasn't happened before. Heyman is always one to, at least his character and how he does, how he represents people in storylines, as he goes for the next big thing. Joe, what do you think? We'll go ahead and talk about the main event, but I think you wanted to say something before, and I told you to hold off. So what was you going to say before we got on the thing here?
As I say, unfortunately, with the big main event between Joe and Brock, that's going to be remembered as, hey, Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah, it's a terrible name. I mean, the logo's terrible. There's been some great memes on Twitter of the and then maybe that's what we kind of got out of it was that, but yeah, it's something else, man. I mean, it's just not a very I don't know, just not a very good name. I don't, there's no kind of ifs, ands, or buts about that. I don't think.
I mean, what do we expect? Vince McMahon always has a fascination with his balls. So maybe that's why he done it.
That's true. That is true. So we look down the match card. We're going to start the show off. If you guys, excuse me, if you didn't got the hiccups right when the show starts. If you didn't watch the pre-show, Neville defeated Tozawa, which I think a lot of people thought would happen, but it was a great match. Of course, Neville won by a low blow on the ropes, which was a really weird finish, but nonetheless, he did pin Tozawa on that. I think he even kicked him low blow to win it. At least that's what they made it kind of look like. So Neville retains. Probably one of the best things about 205, if not the WB in general, has been Neville. But I love Tozawa. Tozawa's probably my favorite wrestler over the past. Ever since I saw him in the Cruiserweight Classic, I just was really enamored with the guy because of how he worked and how stiff he does work, a bit stiff. He doesn't do the hanging German suplex anymore, which kind of sucks, but he does do a pretty rad side or a back suplex that looks really cool. But I just love Tozawa as a whole, just everything he does. So Neville did retain. Hopefully that goes a little bit longer. And hopefully with with Titus Worldwide, now that it's called the Titus brand, that maybe Tozawa will get a run with the Cruiserweight Championship. We're starting off tonight with Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins, which Joe has been kind of a surprising good kind. I will say this with this pay-per-view, I do feel like they've done a better job of building up the matches. Probably one of the better built Raw pay-per-views. Of course, the Samoa Joe build-up with Brock Lesnar has been great. Ambrose and Miz, even though this is the 12,000th time we've seen it, they've done a pretty good job of building up to that as well. This has been kind of an afterthought, but they've done a pretty good job of building this feud between Rollins and Bray Wyatt. But yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job of building some of these matches.
I agree. I think with the Joe and Lesnar feud, I mean, it's probably the best built hype main event in a while because we haven't got to see him wrestle,
Right.
Unlike the last couple pay-per-views where the pay-per-views or the main events was like, oh, we've seen him wrestle 1,000 times on either SmackDown or
sure.
Raw.
Well, we haven't really seen Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt a lot. A lot of their matches have kind of end up in either multi-man matches, tag matches, stuff like that. As far as what they've kind of been put into, but I think this could be a really good match. I don't think either. I think probably Bray needs the win. I think him beating Rollins probably wouldn't hurt Rollins. I read a lot of articles about that. This is kind of a match that doesn't hurt either one of them. But you gotta, Bray's becoming that guy that. He's in all these major kind of angles, and he doesn't really come out on top very often. I know he had the short WBE title run, but I feel like that feud could have been set up a lot better, maybe, as far as maybe building it towards Randy Orton getting the title shot instead of just having it at WrestleMania, which I felt was an afterthought. But yeah, so we'll see if they can build this Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt feud to be something that we talk about a little bit later as well.
I hope so. It's just a shame that they don't have another belt to put on one of these two. I'm not saying that they need the belt to make it a great rivalry, but
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what. It's hard when you only have basically two singles title and a tag title. And I've always felt that both show. I guess you could count the Cruiserweight as exclusive, but that's a title that not everybody can go for. Yeah. So
Bray Wyatt can't go for the Cruiserweight.
Right, Braun Strowman can't be Cruiserweight champion ever. So I think that as far as what they can do, maybe bring in like a TV title or a European title. I do feel like both shows need like one more. I'm not saying do a ton of championships, but I feel like some of the best feuds, you look back at some of the Attitude Era stuff was the European title, and you look at WCW, the television title, had some great matches with it and really kind of built that up. So I'm not really for sure there. I want to bow out for just a second. I'll be right back. Joe, keep it going.
This could be a very show stealer of a match between these two. They're both really great wrestlers. Bray playing one of the best heels that we've seen in WWE in recent history. But of course, Rollins. I think Rollins is a very good wrestler. The name, I can't.
I'm not sure where my phone went.
I can barely look at the name without laughing.
Ollie's gotten her sock out of in there. That little blue one I just took off of her. It was covered in dog slobber and food.
Bray Wyatt taking control of this matchup, ensuring himself and also the set.
No,
And God, in his words, answers himself as a god. And face first up the second turnbuckle. Wyatt's issues with Rollins. Rollins refuses to acknowledge it. Rollins delivered a spin out knee. Quite a bit of success recently. Wyatt had a 2-ball
All right, I'm back here. I had to help my wife get her daughter out of the bath there. And Joe, while we're watching Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins go out of here, of course, some of the biggest, the whole match card, you got Enzo Amore versus Big Cass, which has turned into a rivalry there. Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Hardy Boys in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the WWE Tag Team Championships, or the Raw Tag Team Championships, let's say. Of course, Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt. For the IC title, we got The Miz versus Dean Ambrose. Women's Championship, Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks is on the line. And then also Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. I'm not really for sure how much longer they can kind of – it's been a good rivalry, but I don't know – think about it is I don't know where they're going to – I think they're just buying time until Roman gets Brock, I guess. I'm not really for sure on that. And, of course, the Universal Championship, well, one of them gets Brock. Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe putting on for the Universal Championship. Joe, overall, I think probably one of the better cards that we've seen. I know we have a couple a lot of new stuff as far as the Universal Championship, Women's Championship, Rollins and Wyatt. But we got some good stuff. Like I've been really enjoying the Cesaro and Hardy Boy stuff. And then whatever you think about Reigns and Braun, they've at least been really entertaining with their matches. So just a good card all the way around.
Any predictions for tonight that you think will happen?
I've said before, from the rumors that I've heard and everything that is kind of been swirled around SummerSlam, which has become kind of a obviously the summer version of WrestleMania, sometimes even a better card than WrestleMania in the last couple of years. They're looking at Braun and Brock, or they're looking at Roman and Lesnar. I'm not saying that they can't have a little bit of a detour and let Joe win tonight. I think it'd be really smart for them to let Joe win tonight, because Brock, we've been waiting for somebody to get a really good, rub from Brock as far as, kind of sending them into this superstardom type of thing. And I think Samoa Joe's the guy. Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, if you really think about it, very similar in the way that they work, moveset, how they kind of work in the ring. They can be very, we'll just say, snug, if not stiff at times. But I think it will be, the match in general, I think is somewhat of a dream matchup. What we thought we'd never see Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe, let alone, Samoa Joe and a lot of people, but definitely not Brock and Samoa Joe, especially in the States, maybe Japan, but maybe not, maybe never in the States. But I do think Brock will retain. I don't want Brock to retain. I think either Brock retains or Samoa Joe wins and then drops it back to him. I think they could have a really good trilogy of matches if they kind of, maybe stopping at SummerSlam, maybe with Brock still winning out, but, Joe still looking really strong in those matches. I think Miz retains. There's no reason to give it to Ambrose. I think Reigns beats Strowman tonight because both those guys – they just need to put on a good match. I think they'll be fine. I do think Bray Wyatt wins this match. I don't think – I love Seth Rollins, and Rollins is kind of – both these guys are kind of in a – I guess in kind of like a purgatory right now. I think they just got thrown together because you hadn't seen it before. So I think Bray will win. I think we'll see another match where Seth will win. Seth was in the Samoa Joe feud, and that kind of went away because of the Brock Lesnar stuff. So we'll see how they kind of pick that up. I think the only one I'm not real sure about is the tag team title match. I think that they are chomping at the bit to get the Revival in there, and I think that's why the Hardy Boys probably retain or probably win tonight to set up a Revival and Hardy Boys, which would be really, really good, I think. And then I think Big Cass beats Enzo. Let's talk about Enzo for a second. I don't know, Joe, did you watch the promo that Enzo had Monday night?
I did.
Oh, it was really good, wasn't it? That was probably one of the best promos we've heard all year. Just a really, really good promo. And I think that WWE's going to be surprised at how over Enzo is. I think Vince really likes Big Cass. I think Triple H really likes Big Cass, and I like Big Cass. I think as a big man, I think they've got to be careful not to hot shot him like they did Diesel. But I think that he can be a really, really good heel for them as far as a heel big man. But I think that they're going to be surprised at how over Enzo is. And I think that promo the other night, I mean, as soon as his music hit, I mean, people popped. And I think that was maybe a little bit surprising a little bit. And he went in there and cut a great promo. But I think they're going to be surprised how over Enzo can be. It's just a matter if they're going to book him that way. I don't think he wins against Big Cass. I think they're setting up Big Cass to be, a big star for them. I say he'll probably in a year, maybe a year or two, he'll be right in the Universal title picture. But I think they're going to be very surprised at what they can do with Enzo as well.
I agree. Enzo, I mean, don't surprise me how over Enzo is just because of his mic skills.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think we've ever seen Enzo in single matches, not in the WWE at least. I mean, some, but it's always ended up with him losing or Big Cass helping or something.
Right.
I don't even know what Enzo's finisher is.
I don't think he has one. I mean, I'm sure he does, but I don't know if we'll see it for the next couple months. But
I used to think it was Ziggler because I really thought Ziggler, if they really wanted to kind of like a Shawn Michaels was. And I think the same thing with Enzo, even though he's a little smaller than Michaels, but the way he can work the crowd, really like him. I think he's one of those guys that the guys cheer for, but they really hate because his girlfriend cheers for him too.
Right.
I mean, they can have something special with him if they put him with the right people and they can work with him.
Well, I think the only thing with the Shawn Michaels comparison is Enzo is more of a character. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not saying he's The Rock, but he's more like kind of The Rock. You know, he's more of a character type of thing, where Shawn really wasn't a character. I mean, it was kind of Shawn Michaels he was getting out there to a certain extent. I think Seth is very close to what Shawn is as far as a performer and kind of the Seth Rollins you see out in the ring is kind of maybe the Seth Rollins you kind of see in real life as well to a certain extent. I think that's the only thing that can hold Enzo back is the fact that he's more of a caricature, I guess, of a wrestler, I guess. I'm not really for sure. But I think that, you know, that could be – because in a time where you don't have those type of characters anymore, like this isn't The Rock or even Stone Cold to a certain extent. I mean, most of these guys are, you know, not necessarily regular dudes, but they're wrestlers. You know, they're, you know, like Finn Balor. Finn Balor isn't a character. It's Finn Balor, you know. And I know he has, you know, the character he comes out as, which we haven't seen since he's kind of, you know, been in WWE minus the Rollins match. His core being is just, hey, my name's Finn Balor, I'm a wrestler type of guy. And I think that works. I think that, you know, but it also works for guys like Enzo and Bray Wyatt that, you know, their characters are you know, Bray, I think is a little bit more of a non-believable character than what even Enzo is. I think we know more people like Enzo than we do, you know, than we do Bray Wyatt. But I think that both those characters are just real enough that they can work and kind of stand out.
I agree.
Of course, while we're watching this match, it looks like Bray's in control right now. Big news, a couple big news stories, and we'll probably talk about this on a podcast at some point. But of course, Austin Aries asked for his release and was granted. According to Dave Meltzer, he was actually asked for his release. He wanted off 205 apparently. There was a promo he cut about where he didn't know he was going to go and all this stuff, and then he kind of left, and we thought maybe he was injured. I heard that there was maybe some personal issues going on, but he just asked for his release. Felt like WWE was not using him correctly, which to a certain extent I totally agree. I think that he was, if you're not going to give him the Cruiserweight belt, I don't know why you put him on 205. I think he could have been really good in the IC title picture, the US title picture. I think that he felt like he wasn't being used, and apparently, from what I understand in the meeting, he didn't get the answers he wanted. It looks like Bray maybe hits the Sister Abigail, and that should do it. He beats Seth Rollins. Big win for Bray Wyatt. Good finish. He kicked Rollins in the bad knee, which my wife Shawn has brought up because she did say how long they could kind of bring that storyline before it gets a little bit ridiculous, but he did kick the bad knee of Seth Rollins, and then poked him in the eye and got the Sister Abigail on him. So good finish there. Good match by both those guys. But he's asked for his release, and Austin Aries is now, was granted his release by WWE. And we probably won't see him on TV. We probably won't see him on Impact or ROH or anything like that, but for at least 90 days, I think. But you'll probably see him pop up on some indie shows. And according to Meltzer, a couple of years ago, Aries was not was about to quit WB or quit wrestling. I think he's got a very successful diet plan. I think he's a personal trainer or works with, he's got a book out that was covered in USA Today the other day. So he has some other things going for him. There was a story I actually listened to a shoot interview where, WB wanted to put a tape out for Tough Enough, and he did, and it wasn't accepted. And he felt like that was kind of the end of it for him because he did feel like he was obviously better than everyone that was on Tough Enough, to be on there. Maybe that's why. Maybe they didn't want him to be the favorite to win that match. But I think that Joe, talk about that just a little bit. I love Austin Aries. I think he's a great character. I've heard he can be a little bit hard to work with. But WB brought in a lot of guys, and you got to think there had to be someone that was, kind of the odd man out. And unfortunately, it was Austin Aries this time.
Yeah, I kind of hate to see him I don't think they used him right. I loved him on the announce table when he was hurt, and I thought they did a good job with him and Neville feud. But I don't think you should have limited him to 205.
No, me neither. And I think that's where it's where he got a little bit frustrated, because the thing about it is they started him right on top, and I think that's great. But if you don't give that guy, like if you start a guy out on top and he loses, there's really nothing else for him to do. And I think that's what it's kind of what he saw, that there was nothing else, that there was really nothing he could do minus that at 205. And I think Neville can still do a lot of stuff at 205. I think he could be, the greatest WWE Cruiserweight champion as far as bringing it back up. That, they can build him up. But at this point, you kind of lost the guy that, a lot of people thought that should have probably won the title and been the champion and been the top guy. So, because right now at 205, and, Dave Meltzer talks about a lot, and you see a lot of it on Twitter, is that they haven't established a lot of guys. I mean, Tozawa's there. You looked at, Cedric Alexander, TJ Perk, or TJP as they call him now. I think that there's a lot of talented guys on there, but Neville's beat them all. I mean, there's no besides Tozawa, maybe Cedric Alexander, I don't see anyone beating him for the title except for Austin Aries. And I think that was the one that, and I think Austin saw that he'd done everything he could on 205. And he did. They had some great matches, and he wanted something else. And unfortunately, WWE decided not to give it to him.
It's a shame. I mean, I think, especially some of those 205 guys, I feel sorry for them. I think they should have at least maybe a 205 tag division as well.
Well, they should have something.
It just gets boring to me with just one belt.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. WCW for all the titles that they had at one point near the end of it. When they brought in the Cruiserweight tag titles near the end, I thought that was a really genius idea, because you can use a lot of those Cruiserweights that maybe, they bring in a lot of Cruiserweights nobody's talked about. They still had Mysterio and Kidman at the end, but they was really bringing in a bunch of other guys. Jamie Noble started there, a lot of other things that they had a chance to shine because of those tag matches. And I think that would be beneficial. I don't know if they thought about it. I don't know if, but I mean, just like at Noam Dar and Alicia Fox stuff, they threw Aries into that, and Aries didn't want to do that. I think it's a stupid storyline. I think, they drug it on for way too long. And I like Noam Dar. I like Alicia Fox. And I think Alicia Fox is a great valet, and she's a pretty good wrestler in her own right. But they've just drugged that on for so long that I'm okay with Noam Dar and Alicia Fox being together, but everyone he faces doesn't have to be a romantic relationship with Alicia Fox. Yeah. So it's just bad booking. I don't know who's doing the booking. There's some say Vince is doing the booking, and some different things here or there. But that show, I don't even mind that when they do like number one contendership matches, when they're like, we'll have a 4-way. That's great. Let's have a 5-way. Great. That's awesome. But they just don't seem to grasp that they should just let the cruiserweights be the cruiserweights. Like, we don't need these cheesy storylines. We just need really good matches. And they haven't booked that either, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't. It's just, the whole 205 show, I love cruiserweights. I love watching them. But I don't like, it just gets repetitive, because you have all these matches, and I'm not saying they're the same, but they don't really mean anything, because you only have your top 3 or 4 guys that's going to be in the title contest.
Right.
And you don't have anybody else fighting for anything.
Yeah, I think that's what you're seeing. You're going to start seeing that on the brand extension as well. Is that you're seeing these matches just being on Raw, and then they're like, oh, this is going to be a pay-per-view match, and it's not a pay-per-view match anymore, because they faced 5 times or 4 shows out of 5 shows or whatever on Raw. And I believe in putting them in tag matches together and stuff like that, but they just, a lot of times it's just like, hey, here's the main event tonight, Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt or whatever. And you're like, wait a minute, that should be a pay-per-view match. Like, you should build to that. And I think with 205, their roster is just so super thin. Like, they just don't have guys that, I love Drew Gulak. I think Drew Gulak would be awesome, but you can't put him up against Neville. Like, he's a heel versus a heel. I think it'd be awesome if he won the Cruiserweight title and didn't do any crazy jump moves and just did what Drew, make the Cruiserweights great again. I think it's a great gimmick, but unfortunately he's being wasted. And I don't see – and I love Neville, and Neville's great, but there's just not a believable contender. Really, the only guy that I could think would be TJP because, I think that size-wise and everything else, I think they match up really well. But even Tozawa, I'm like, Tozawa's great, but Tozawa's not going to beat Neville. Like, it's so predictable that – and they take somebody like Austin Aries, and they basically job him out 3 times. And I don't know – and if I'm Austin, I feel the same way. Like, what do I do next? Like, what's my next plan? And unfortunately, they didn't have one. And kudos to Austin Aries about, hey, man, I'm out. I don't know if we'll ever see him again. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But that guy has some stuff going on for him. So, good luck to him and hope he gets in the indies and stuff like that. But I just think that they're kind of wasting some of their talent down there. Now we're getting the promo package for Enzo and Big Cass. And like we talked about before, Enzo had a great promo on Monday Night's Raw. Just a great promo. They've done a pretty good job of building this up. It's kind of a kooky storyline, I guess, but I think there's kookier ways to break up tag teams. But they've done a pretty good job of keeping this one full steam ahead there. As Enzo's the first one out for this match. A lot of tag team breakups over the years. Of course, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, one of the more famous ones as far as breakups. Of course, this is why Enzo's super popular. If you're watching this, then you know that Enzo is an awesome talent on the mic, and we haven't really seen how awesome he can be in a single match. But he has had some, of course, that really bad botch where his forehead hit the ropes, and we thought that maybe he was he was done for good. As far as that injury goes, and that was pretty nasty there. But he's come back and done a pretty good job of establishing himself as one of the more popular superstars since coming up from NXT. Yeah.
You're behind, by the way.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Big time?
Yeah. Like, he was already in the ring with his when he started his entrance music or started his thing on the ramp.
Gotta love WB. Gotta love the network.
Can't hear me eating, can you?
We could earlier.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. What are you eating?
Pizza.
Is he still talking on yours?
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a chat question from Trustkill260, and we'll answer this here. It says, Aaron, I have a side question. ESPN, CBS Sports, and today BuzzFeed have all been reporting WWE stories lately. Also, you can throw Bleacher Report, who's been doing it for a little bit as well. Has the industry finally recognized sports entertainment as a viable industry? I think it's interesting. as far as especially the ESPN coverage. Actually the page I got pulled up for the card was actually CBS Sports, but when they entered that deal with and you can almost maybe thank Jonathan Coachman for it a little bit. Obviously, Coachman is a big wrestling fan. Obviously, took himself out of the thing after some controversy a couple months back. But I think that they're starting to recognize it maybe more of an athletic type of showing more so. I think it's very understood that this is predetermined stuff, but it's also a lot of athletes. You look at guys like Finn Balor and you get guys like, even Enzo, guys like Seth Rollins. I think they all are some of the best athletes in the world as far as what they do. Some of the stuff they pull off, it's people talk about wrestling being as a ballet for guys basically. And that's basically kind of what it is to a certain extent. So I think they recognize the athletic aspect of it and kind of the it is weird to see them at WrestleMania and stuff. I think it's a little bit odd. And you look at some of the comments on Facebook or Twitter, and obviously a lot of hate in those that wrestling's fake and all that stuff. But we all know as wrestling fans that, it's predetermined, but fake is not the right word to describe wrestling. And as far as the stories we've heard of the older generation and what they went through to kind of establish themselves as, or establish this, I guess, art, I guess to a certain extent, especially in the indies, as something as a viable form of entertainment that you're not, I guess you're not embarrassed to talk about it anymore. I mean, there's a lot of people that talk about wrestling now, and WWE has done a good job of kind of making it a viable form of entertainment, not just for kids, but for everybody. And I think you look at wrestling as a whole, New Japan, ROH, all those guys are getting more and more press coverage. I mean, USA Today did a great write-up on ROH during their 15th anniversary show, I think, when Christopher Daniels finally won the title. I think that, I think during the heyday of the 80s that it was seen largely as a kid thing. But I think because of how athletic these guys are, that they're starting to get noticed a little bit. And it is like a viable industry. Like you said, I think, we hate the term as far as wrestling, if you're, I know Jared hates it and we kind of hate it too, sports entertainment, but that's kind of what it is. And that's what sports is as a whole. I mean, even though the NFL is not predetermined and you can argue that's more of a sport than what, WWE is obviously, it's still sports entertainment. And I think that ESPN recognizing this, as giving it coverage for WrestleMania and SummerSlam. I think having guys like, even though we can argue with how they've kind of booked Brock as far as him really not giving much back, he's been given a lot, but not given a lot back to what WWE has signed him for. The one thing he has given back is a lot of credibility as far as a guy coming in, big star name, former UFC champ, all that good stuff. But I also think that, to be 100% honest, I don't think ESPN covers wrestling like other sports. I mean, case in point, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar got popped for PEDs. They didn't question him being in WWE, obviously on PEDs, probably why he was there. So there's some things that they still don't do, unfortunately, that they should. Like if this happened on an NFL team, I think that, obviously they would question, hey, this guy got popped for steroids. He's been on your team for 6 months. Is this the first test or whatever? They didn't question Vince and them. And I think that's where people still look at it as just entertainment. It's like a movie. Stallone got popped for steroids during Rocky IV, and nobody blinked an eye because he's an actor. I think that still has, I guess in WB, I guess in professional wrestling, people was like, oh, well, we just kind of expected it's entertainment. It's not really a sport. And that's where people say, oh, it's not really a sport. And until ESPN starts covering it like that, where it's like, oh, hey, so-and-so got popped for steroids, it's still not going to seem a sport to certain people. So I like how ESPN has kind of given some guys some pub, like Finn Balor and Seth Rollins and all these guys, Samoa Joe, but I also think they don't cover it as a sport. They don't cover it like they would the NFL or the NBA. So Joe, what do you think about that, man? Do you think that, with these guys recognizing it, do you think they have been kind of accepted as more of a viable industry as far as in sports?
I think they've always, as far as sports,
it's arguably that they've always been a viable industry. I mean, obviously these guys have always made money, minus even the, minus the new generation before the Monday Night Wars when did lose a ton of money, but WB's always kind of been around. So as far as a viable business, we understand that. But as far as a viable industry within sports,
I think nowadays you probably could throw it up there with sports. I think a lot of the I'm not even gonna call them older generation. I'm gonna say middle generation. The ones grow late '80s and early '90s and the 2000s still had a love for wrestling even as they became older, kind of like us. And I think that's helped out a whole lot. And I think the help of podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that has really helped it as well. But I mean, as far as sports goes, I mean, you can kind of compare it to the NFL, and like you said, we know the NFL predetermined. I'm not to say, or let's say NBA is supposedly predetermined, but I mean, even though it's predetermined, I mean, these guys are just as much athletes as or NFL player. I mean, they go 300 a year usually.
Right.
Either working out or on shows or pay-per-views, or I mean, there for a while we were discussing if they were getting worked too much.
Sure.
And like WWE had all those injuries go around. But I mean, the stuff that they do with their body and everything like that. I mean, sure, the matches are predetermined. We could say that we could hope. You can place money on Enzo Amore and he wins, but in all actuality, I mean, everybody knows big cash should win this match,
Right.
But I mean, ESPN covering, I think it's cool. I think the first person that I saw on ESPN, and he was like number 1 on the top 10. When he, I guess his debut when he done the 450, and I thought that was real cool. So, but as far as sporting, I mean, I think they're becoming one of the most well-known sports industries in the world.
Well, they do a great job. I mean, WWE's recognizable around the world.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think that, sure, yeah. And that's what they've always done. I mean, you can look back to Bret Hart. Bret Hart was a huge star everywhere he went because of how big WWE was. Even during that time, they wasn't really doing much, but Bret was a huge global star because of the way that WWE kind of promoted him and such. One of the points that Trustkill 260 brought up was the big names that have kind of went through: Ronda Rousey, Gronk, D'Angelo Williams. Of course, Lesnar and Punk with their crossover sports. And to be quite honest, I mean, let's just go back to Punk for a second. Punk, when they did the Summer of Punk, the WWE version of Summer of Punk, the day after, Bill Simmons, had an interview with him, and that's when Bill, was Grantland was starting to get some traction. Of course, his podcast was one of the better sports podcasts out there. But you can, we talk about Brock. We talk about, and arguably Brock has been a huge coup for WB bringing him back. And then also, I think if it wasn't for Brock, maybe Rousey or Gronk or Williams, we'll talk about D'Angelo Williams for that second, because I wish he was a professional wrestler after seeing some of that match. But I think Punk kind of started this all, when it was being reported that he was leaving and he won the title and all that stuff that was going on with him. That was the first time that I saw like Bill Simmons have a wrestler on his podcast. Bill Simmons is a wrestling fan from way back, but his son kind of got him back into it. To kind of, ESPN picked that up. I mean, it was kind of weird to see, to hear CM Punk on a Bill Simmons podcast. And he obviously went and did Jimmy Kimmel, that really funny skit with Sal's kid, which was really funny. But, as much as Punk is maligned these days, as far as, people, making fun of him for getting his butt kicked in the UFC, he should be in the UFC, he quit on us and all that stuff. WWE has a lot to kind of give. They should give a lot of pub to Punk because he kind of put them a little bit more in the spotlight than what you would expect from just a regular wrestling angle, and stuff like that. So even though Lesnar, I think, gives a lot of the credit, because I think if Lesnar wouldn't have came in, you wouldn't have saw Rousey, you wouldn't have saw Gronk, because it kind of made it legitimate again. I guess, made it legitimate again because of the caliber. Brock's a UFC champion. as Big Cass just took out Enzo like we talked about before and pretty much dominated that whole match. I don't think Enzo got any offense in at all during that match. But I think, Punk deserves a little bit of the credit, and he brings up good points with all these guys. But I think if Punk if they wouldn't let Punk do what he wanted to do and then also bring Lesnar back in, I don't know if we would have saw Rousey or Gronk. And that's just, and because of that, Rousey and Gronk and D'Angelo Williams have all done some really cool stuff. I mean, even like Jon Stewart, some of the guys that say, weird things they've kind of done with celebrities. And Vince has always been kind of this, always wanted WB to have a Hollywood connection. And I think it's arguably that maybe sports are more Hollywood than Hollywood to a certain extent these days. So definitely that, they've done a good job, but I think Punk and obviously Lesnar deserves a lot of credit for bringing all those guys in. Obviously, maybe not the end of this feud between these two. I think these guys have a couple more matches in them.
Now, going back to what you were saying, I mean, I think it helped out when you started seeing those crossovers. Lesnar coming out with WWE, Bobby Lashley was another one. So when
sure.
He was what, Bellator?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Dave Batista. I don't know if he's as good or not on the MMA stuff. I've been watching the fights, but then crossing over into Hollywood, you always had Hogan. Hogan had some movies, had Trouble in Paradise, is that the name of the show?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Babysitter or Mr. Nanny? Mr. Nanny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But then, The Rock has had a really good career. You see Batista really bringing it home with a couple of his movies. And The Miz.
Go ahead.
I was going to say The Miz coming up through reality TV. He always said he wanted to be a wrestler, and then he comes in and he takes WWE. I won't say by storm, but I mean he had a good push when he first came in.
We'd like to thank KM Gaming and More here. I'll give you a shout out. Sure, we'll subscribe to you back too. So cool. We'll check your channel out if you check out ours. This YouTube channel has been mostly the podcast. Me and Joe started some Mega Man stuff, so maybe we'll be able to finish that off. And I'm thinking Joe's doing some streaming, but he can't remember his streaming name anytime I ask, so I won't ask this time. So I'm going to start doing some stuff, hopefully streaming as well. I don't have a game room or anything like that anymore, so I have a wonderful daughter, which is definitely worth the sacrifices of not have a gaming room anymore. But it takes a little bit for me to set everything up and get streaming and stuff. So hopefully, I'll be able to stream a little bit more here there. So we're moving on to the third. Thanks for the questions, by the way. I think that's great. This is the first time we've had a really good chance to kind of get some questions out there. So we appreciate both Trustkill and K&M Gaming and More for sticking around with us this evening. So we got the Hardy Boys 30-minute Iron Man match for the tag team, for the Raw Tag Team Championship. And of course, you think they lose? Okay. All right. Well, who's the next logical? We'll say Sheamus and Cesaro. Now, some people have said that they're trying to start to do the broken gimmick a little bit more. As far as that goes, and I think that there's been some legal, obviously, ramifications with TNA. I don't know if anybody's followed this, but we'll just say Matt Hardy's wife can use curse words in a very spectacular and creative manner a lot of times. But TNA is basically, they said that they own the rights to the broken gimmick, which to a lot of people apparently Matt came up with and kind of that was his baby, and he let TNA kind of run with it. And when they came to WWE, everybody thought that gimmick would come with them, and they just kind of became the Hardy Boys again. And that's when everything came out that TNA was not doing, was not going to let them do it. And so there's been some rumors that they've been trying to work with TNA to try to get some, maybe pay them for the rights or something like that for the gimmick to be used. Some royalties, I guess, would be the correct word there. for them to use it. Some people think that they'll lose here, and that's when you'll start seeing Matt kind of come unraveled, which would be really cool if that's what it was. But I just don't know what the next step is for Cesaro and them because there's really not a team out there. You could put the Revival against them, but they just turned Cesaro and Sheamus heel, 2 months ago? So I don't know. I'm not for sure. Joe, what do you – I mean, if you think they're going to win, I mean, who's the next logical step?
I mean, with them turning heel, it makes it kind of hard because there's not really that many active on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at it. Maybe if you bring club back and actually do the club with Finn and Anderson Gallows, even though Anderson Gallows is heel, the action out of it, I don't think it would matter if he had a heel. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that would be a good to take the belts. But with all the rumors going around with the parties that want to start two, I wouldn't. They don't lose this time around.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sheamus and Cesaro. I think, some people don't really like Sheamus, but I think he's done a really good job of longevity and kind of sticking around. And I think Cesaro was a great kind of combination with him. Now, I did like them when they was a little bit more at odds with each other. That was kind of funny. They booked that really well. Kind of reminded me of Matt Hardy and MVP back in the day. We got a couple questions. K&M Gaming, no problem, man. We appreciate you being a sub. He's been sub since 2 subs. So awesome, man. Appreciate that. And appreciate you hanging around with us today. So go check those guys out. K&M Game or KM Gaming and more. Check your channel. A couple more questions for 260. Said that what NFL player would you most like to see in the ring? I would love to see Von Miller. I think that he would have. Whoa, that was quick. So within not even 30 seconds, Cesaro and Sheamus has already scored a pinfall. So they're up 1-0. I would love to see Von Miller. I think Von Miller would be super funny. I think he has a great personality, great style. He's obviously a great athlete. I think that he could really do some stuff. That would be one right off the top of my head. Joe, who would you like to see in the NFL?
I mean, Von Miller would be cool. That Wolf dude from Denver.
Oh yeah.
He seems like he's crazy. That's 2 players out of Denver. Gronk would have been like the obvious answer. We haven't seen him just because he's a character to begin with.
Joe, you're going to have to bring your mic up. I can barely hear you there.
Sorry.
There we go.
I'm trying to think of any more that's out there that would.
I think
Dez Bryant would be fun to watch on.
Dez or Odell. I think both of those guys would be great to watch because they just have natural charisma to them. I think those would be two good athletes. Another question is, he said if they go the route of broken Matt Hardy, could he go over more than Jeff? Matt was never as big as Jeff in their first run. Matt was always, I thought, the more, I guess, I'm trying to think of it more, I guess the better wrestler of the two. I mean, Jeff always did the crazy things that he did. What's that, guys? I always thought Matt was a bit better in the ring than Jeff as far as just overall, as far as just maybe safer, I guess. But he never really had a character. He's always, Matt Hardy was kind of a bland type of character. He did have a really good run with Edge for a while. I thought that feud was really, really good because it was kind of drenched in reality, I guess, as far as what was going on backstage. But I think Matt, when I first heard the broken Matt stuff, I thought this is stupid. And then I watched that match and I thought, it is kind of dumb, but in that good kind of dumb way. And I thought Matt did a great job with the character. So I think that as far as what Matt's done, I think if they really let that gimmick go, I think a lot of people are afraid that WB will hold him back because it is kind of a crazy gimmick. I think it's a gimmick that people, we talk about how professional wrestling has kind of been taken to this, kind of more, I guess, seriously in the sports journalism world, I guess. But a character like Matt, you either let him go or he's just going to come off as really kind of hokey character. And I think that some of the greatest characters in WWE history, and we talked about Enzo being so over the top, The Rock was super over the top, and I think if they just let him go over the top and not hold him back, I think that he could overshadow Jeff. But the thing about it is, Jeff is kind of, Jeff has always kind of like you said, I think he's had more successful runs, but Jeff is already an established superstar. I don't think it hurt Jeff by any stretch. I think it can only, help WB in the sense that now they have both Hardys that could be single stars instead of always being a tag team. Then always have the Hardys as a tag team to come back on when they need kind of a jump or a jump to the tag division. So I agree. I think they should let Matt do. Joe, what do you think? Do you think if they let Matt do it, you think that he could really become something that's super over on this level?
I think he could. I think the whole Broken Matt Hardy thing really, like you said, he really never had a character, gave him something to run with.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's always been more of the character of the two.
That's the thing, though. Jeff's never really had a character either.
He's not, but he's always been
because of what he does. Like, yep.
He puts his body on the line, and I'm not saying Matt's never done anything like that, but if you think about a 30-foot ladder, you don't think about Matt jumping off of it. You think about Jeff jumping off.
Right, exactly.
So,
I think Jeff's character is that Daredevil, and I think we always remember what he's done. But Matt's a good wrestler, and and he's probably a better wrestler than Jeff in a lot of respects.
He is, but I think Matt's run in TNA or Jeff's run in TNA really helped him out too until all that other stuff happened with him, which was a shame. I'm glad to see him, clean and wrestling well again. But I think Matt would be. Jeff would be the easier push, but I think if he'd done a Broken Matt, I think everybody would love it.
Well, I think that character is it's just a funny character, and I think that but the thing about it is that character. Kind of like Bray Wyatt to a certain extent, and I would love to see Broken Matt and Bray Wyatt. In a feud, that would be ridiculously fun. But you can have a silly character as long as you can be vicious in the ring. And you look at Bray Wyatt. Sometimes, Bray Wyatt's character verges on silliness. He talks a lot of gibberish sometimes, almost not as bad as the Ultimate Warrior, but sometimes you can get to the point where you're just like, what did he just say? I don't understand where he's going with this. But you have to have that viciousness in the ring. And we've seen that from Bray where he just is vicious. Like his character would be super vicious in the ring. And that's how Matt was. Like if you watch some of his matches in Impact, he would turn on this character and then he gets in the ring and he's just throwing them all over the place and just beating them up and pounding on them. And I think that as long as he keeps that aspect of the character, I think it's fine. I think it's a little bit tougher to get it over on the stage, but I think what helps is that a lot, we talked about a lot of old wrestling fans still watch it. These guys know Jeff's character, and you can even hear him chant broken, broken, broken. I think that's going to be, or delete, I'm sorry, delete. I think that helps that character get through because it already has a fan base that's ready for him to do it. And I won't comment on Trustkill 260's Dez comment. He said Dez would have a tough time. The Divas division is already stacked. So there's no argument from me that Dez is a diva. So and I'm a Cowboys fan. I love the Cowboys, but Dez could definitely Dez is something else, man. He's definitely a character. So still one zip, 22:51 remaining here in this 30-man Ironman match. Joe, what do you think about the 30-man Ironman match? I like it.
I like them.
I think it's a challenge. I think it's not for everybody. I don't think everybody can do a 30-minute match. And I don't think people understand how hard it is to do a 30-man match, or it's not a 30-man match, but 30-hour, it would be really hard for a 30-hour match, a 30-minute match, because of everything you have to try to set up. Usually a 15-minute match is good. Like if you can go a good 15-minute match, then you can get a lot of stuff worked in, but sometimes 30 minutes is a little bit too much. So I do like that they have put guys in there like I believe these two teams could definitely do a 30-minute Ironman match. Just like I know people complained about Charlotte and Sasha a couple months back.
That match was awesome.
That match was awesome. From the setup to all the way through, I thought that match was really, really good. And I think if you get the right performers, I think it can be done. And I think so far so good with this match.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the line that Matt Hardy kind of looks like one of those old action figures WWE put out.
Yeah. I'd buy a Matt Hardy action figure.
Yeah, but remember the Savio Vega action figure?
Yeah, they have no knees.
Yeah, like that's what Matt Hardy looks like.
Speaking of Savio, man, I've been watching a lot of the new generation stuff. Savio's good, man. I enjoy Savio Vega. Good worker, good character. Everybody loved him. He got jumped by Santa, so.
I like Savio. I think him and D'Lo though made the stiffest action figures ever.
I hate characters without knees, man. Or at least bendable. Like none of those guys had jointed knees, but you could remember they was like rubber, so when you put them in like a sharpshooter or something, their knees would crack,
They had rubber and wire. They had the wire in them too.
Yep. And it was like jointed wire. So when it would like kind of, I guess, cracking of bones when you put them in a submission move or something.
Mm-hmm. But Hardy just walk. Like that's what he reminds me of.
Uh-oh. 2-zip.
I was getting ready to ruin it for you. I forgot you're behind me.
I'm not too far behind you.
Yeah, you are.
Again?
What's your clock say?
I'm right at 20 minutes.
I'm at 19:25.
Oh, geez. I'm not even sure how that happens. Try to catch.
Internet speed might be slower.
Try to catch back up here. Nope. That's not what I wanted. I'd like to thank both KM Gaming and More and also Trustkill 260 for hanging out with us tonight. It's the first time we've had some questions pulled up off the stream here, so we appreciate that. Kind of keep the conversation flowing. I'm at 1925. Is that where you're at?
I'm at 1845 now.
Ah, Lord. I'm just going to leave it. Don't. See if I go all the way out here. Oh, is he?
Yeah, he took Cesaro's face from the top, turned back the buckle to the middle to the bottom.
Dude, how cool is that move? I love that move.
Awesome, I did too.
And I think people don't think how hard it is to get the timing down for that if you're not careful.
So that could really hurt. That video I sent you the other day with moonsault, the 450-pound dude.
Yeah.
Was you afraid that the turnbuckles was on the break on that guy?
I was afraid the whole ring was going to break.
I know.
Those ropes were, man, they were stretching really, really, really bad.
I know that that's one of the, I'm not going to say bigger indie promotions, but they're kind of, they're an all right indie promotion.
Which indie promotion was it?
Oh my God, if you wouldn't have asked me, I would have remembered.
Well, I'm at 1808, by the way.
I'm at 1723.
Okay, well, I'm just going to leave it then. That's as best I can do.
I think it's when I'm in a bigger city, it's fast. My internet speed's a little bit faster than yours. Probably running a little slower. But man, they done a good job putting that ring together.
Yeah.
We'll have to post it on Twitter so people know what we're talking about. They've not seen it. Holy moly, man! That guy. I wouldn't even say he was jumping. He's just kind of falling and flipping back.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was something, man. I don't know if he necessarily jumped. I'm afraid if he jumped off those ropes, they would have snapped. But it was more like he just mastered the way to fall backwards into a moonsault.
They said it was the biggest moonsault, including Bam Bam and Vader.
Yeah, I mean, well, Vader was. I mean, he was four. He was. I think WWE when he was in WB, he was 5 something. But I don't think he ever tried the moonsault in WB, if I'm not mistaken. So, but that guy, how much did that guy weigh?
They said 450 or 475 one.
Yes, it was a lot.
I think it was.
Bam Bam was big, but Bam Bam wasn't.
Bam Bam was a freak athlete, though.
Yeah, he was crazy, man.
I don't think that guy gets enough.
He doesn't get enough credit. I think Bam was a tremendous worker. Bret Hart talks about him being a tremendous worker. One of the best matches I've ever seen was him and Bret, which is hard not that, it's hard to have a bad match with Bret, but, for him to keep up with Bret, they had a match in Spain. It was actually on Bret's DVD that he requested to be put on there. And the first one that they did on him. And that was a tremendous match and really showed how athletic, Bam Bam is. I don't think he always got the chance to show it as much because he was a big man. But, he had some – he was legit, man. I like watching Bam Bam's matches.
He a big man. He could really wrestle.
Sorry, Dante Hawk, man. We don't show the video. We like to stay around on YouTube, so we try to follow the rules as much as possible. So, oh yeah, Truskill 260. He talked about Hugh Morris. Hugh Morris was a very good big man. Now, as far as a trainer and everything, maybe a little bit tough on the guys, but Hugh Morris was great. Especially, people talk about how bad WCW was, but Hugh Morris kind of came into his own with the Misfits in Action. And I really enjoyed his work. He was one of the bright spots of 2000 to 2001 WCW, or 99, I guess, to 2001 WCW, because he was very athletic for what he did. I thought he kind of built his character up really well. A really good worker. So, Hugh Morris was great.
I'll tell you another NFL player. Bring back up that question.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Norman.
Josh Norman would be good. I'm afraid with Josh Norman though, his persona would be better than his in-ring skills. I think with all the guys
in-ring skills. I just want to see him on the mat.
No, I mean, I'm not saying all these guys would be great in the ring, but what I'm saying is, as far as being able to learn stuff, I have a feeling that like Josh Norman would be out of all the guys we named. I think, as far as athleticism, I think they could get away with more in the ring with their athleticism than what Norman could. But his persona, I'm not down on Josh Norman, but I don't think he's his caliber of an athlete is like a Dez or an Odell.
What about Lane
just
Kiffin?
Personally?
Lane Kiffin should be in the WWE.
Lane Kiffin. So solo singular bike 21. Right now it is the Iron Man match. Joe's a little bit ahead of me. I'm at 14. Joe's probably at 12 now, somewhere around that nature.
I'm at the end of 13.
Okay. So Cesaro and Sheamus up 2-1. They went up 2-0 really quickly. As far as the match goes, in fact, they scored a pinfall less than 30 seconds into the match to go up 1-0. But we got 13:40 left in this match, at least on my clock there, and it's 2-1 Cesaro and Sheamus here in a 30-man Iron Man match. So thanks for hanging out with us.
I'm just gonna let you do all the updating, so we're gonna do anything for you.
Okay. Dante Hall, I think there's ways that you can get a 30-day free trial with WB Network. If you want to try to do that as well, I think you can go to their site, sign up for 30 days. Just make sure you
go
ahead, Joe. Yeah, create a new email. Yeah, and try to get, if you've already had the 30 days, go create a new email and do it that way. So, but you can definitely get at least 30 days for free, so you can get the pay-per-view and watch the rest of this. So free is always good. So one of the things that Truskill 260 brought up was Kevin Owens has the potential to be Hugh Morris. I think Kevin Owens has the potential to be so much better than Hugh Morris, and I love Hugh Morris, but I think that Kevin Owens is a unique talent. I don't think everybody thinks that. My wife can't stand Kevin Owens. There's that he thinks he's boring, which is totally false. My wife is usually right most of the time, but not with Kevin Owens. But I think Kevin Owens. Go, Joe.
Our mother thinks the same thing.
Well, mom's not always right either. So, but I think Kevin Owens is one of those talents that you just don't see. I mean, you put him up there with like and I'm not just talking about stature size, but like guys like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't read that one. He actually should have been. Sure, yeah, I can see Hugh Morris, being a Kevin Owens, should have been a Kevin Owens top setup. I think Owens has more of a unique personality. I think with Hugh Morris, he was kind of a common personality for wrestlers. He shouted a lot, he's mean mugging and stuff like that. I think he's a very old school product, which is great. But I think that, he lacked a little bit of charisma. Something that obviously Kevin Owens has in gallons. But I think Hugh Morris is still underrated. Totally agree with that as well. I think is going back to Kevin Owens. I think Kevin Owens is he was good. He was great in ROH. Like he was just top of his game. And so I think overall, I think Kevin Owens. Is probably a lot like Chris Jericho in the sense that he's so versatile. Kevin Owens could be a heel. I think Kevin Owens could be a face. I think Kevin Owens obviously can be a tweener. But I think what Kevin Owens has above and maybe held back Hugh Morris a little bit was, like I said, I don't think Hugh Morris had that unique charisma to his character. I think he was a very old school type of character. So. So Lawson Austin is actually my wife, and she just commented that your daughter just said Mama's right. Kevin Owens is boring. My daughter knows Kevin Owens is not boring. My daughter sits here and watches wrestling with me. She actually watched some New Japan with me the other day as I was watching it, and she knows Kevin Owens. In fact, she told me the other day that Kevin Owens may be her favorite wrestler after AJ Styles.
No, after Undertaker, because she does a pretty mean.
Oh yeah, because she does Baby Taker. That's true.
Pretty mean Undertaker impression.
I don't think she's ever seen an Undertaker match, unfortunately. I think that I don't think she watched wrestling. She was too young to watch WrestleMania. She was born but too young, so I don't think she's ever seen an Undertaker match. She will though. She will. So we got 9:58 remaining. If you're a little bit ahead, it's 3-1 Cesaro and Sheamus on the 30-man Iron Man match here. And Hardy Boys running out of time. 9:47 remaining, so it's probably going to be a frantic finish. Maybe they'll get a roll up here in a minute, get a quick pin to bring it back to 3-2. And yes, AJ Styles does have mom hair, but AJ Styles does have immaculate hair. Like AJ just has, even after matches, like it just goes back to exactly how it was. I mean, you have to applaud AJ's hair.
I like AJ's long hair better than I did his short hair.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I liked it actually when he was in New Japan when it was cut kind of. I can't believe we're talking about AJ Styles' hair, but I liked it in New Japan when it first started growing out, and in TNA when it first started growing out. I think it's a little bit ridiculous now to a certain extent. It is a little bit, but he has nice hair, man. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Reminds me of my hair when I was.
Joe, you ain't never had hair like that. Don't act like that.
Hey, I'm not saying I had hair like that. I'm saying that my hair was immaculate when I was younger.
That's true.
I had a good fro.
My hair's pretty immaculate.
No.
Not immaculate, but it is quite impressive when it gets longer.
And
which if you go back and listen to past podcasts, it's funny to see the thumbnail for when I get haircuts on the podcast. It's like long, short, long, short, long. It's like long, 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 long. Oh, look, I can now track when I get haircuts. And now Cesaro has Matt Hardy in the sharpshooter, middle of the ring.
Man, what's your time now?
8:08.
Man, you were really close earlier, and now you must have.
I don't know what it is. It's weird. No, it never stopped.
Because you were within like 20, 30 seconds of me just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I can agree. Trustkill 260 said he played Gotham villain knockoffs for years, which was what Hugh Morris did. I will say this, the Dungeon of Doom was hokey, and I wish Jared was here because he hates the Dungeon of Doom. He likes making fun of them, and it was a weird kind of definitely 1980s in 1993 type of stable. but I liked his laughing man gimmick. I thought he played it really well. Like I remember as a kid being a little bit scared of Hugh Morris because of he would do that kind of crazy psychotic look and then he'd start laughing type of thing. And then he stopped and he'd get real serious again. So I thought he did a really good job with that.
The Legion of Doom was not a bad. No.
Do what now?
I mean, come on. They gave us the Yeti.
I think you're arguing in the opposite direction here, Joe. I mean, I think it's great. Listen, we've got a lot of mileage out of the Dungeon of Doom, but Kamala, you mean? And have Ming. I'm not saying that they have. I'm not even saying they had good workers because at that point all those guys was a little bit older and kind of not working as hard as they probably should have been for as much as they paid.
They had the Giant.
Yeah, they had the Giant, but that was about it. I mean, I love Ming, but
remember
all those guys were kind of lazy.
Was it which pay-per-view? It was them versus like Hogan and Luger.
That was Fall Brawl '93, I think.
In the cages.
Yeah, that was a War Games match. It was Hogan, Sting, Luger, and Macho Man. Vader was supposed to be in that match, but that was when he signed with WWE. And they basically called him a coward on TV for like a month after that.
I would not call Vader a coward, man.
No, I would. The only thing I'd call Vader is Sir. That's pretty much about it.
Man, I told you about that match I watched. He had a match with ICP, and ICP's
oh God,
wrestling promotion. It was him and Scott Steiner with these two local guys.
Oh Lord!
And, I mean, I thought they was gonna kill him. They was working so stiff with these guys.
Well, Mick Foley always said in his book that whoever had Vader for the TV tapings or whatever, I can always tell because they come back white as a ghost.
He always works stiff.
So Hardy's 3-2, which apparently a lot of you guys may be ahead of me here, but it's 3-2. Cesaro and Sheamus, 450 remaining in a 30-man Iron Man match. As Matt is getting set up for the. And Matt just totally missed that punch too. There's a little bit of a botch there, but it's all right. Speaking of broken, Matt. It's been a good match. I mean, like I said, if you're going to do a 30-man Iron Man match, you got to put guys in there that can do it, and these guys can definitely do it. Oh, Matt's on the top. He's backwards. Oh, he just did a moonsault.
Yep.
It's been a while since we've seen Matt do the moonsault.
He's bringing out other stops in the last couple minutes.
That's it. I miss Matt's leg drop from the top rope.
Oh, man.
I think what killed the Dungeon of Doom was they were just yeah, well, Trust Kill 260 brought up a good point about them having Giant Yeti, but I think they just got too. I think and all this has to do with Hogan, obviously, but because of what kind of guys that he wanted to go up against. But I always liked Kevin Sullivan's character. I think that in the know that Kevin Sullivan was a legit, bad dude, I think helped that gimmick more than what people think. But I think that twist of fate from the top rope. That looked terrible. Sheamus took that terribly, but
I think.
I think what killed the Dungeon of Doom was, I think it just after Hogan was kind of done with him, they didn't really have anything because those characters you really couldn't take seriously. I think the Giant probably preserved the Dungeon of Doom for longer than what they probably should have been around.
I mean, the Yeti was.
Yeti was terrible.
I think was the best thing next to the Gobbledygook.
Yeah, it is now 3-3 on my stream. So 2:25 remaining, 3-3 after Matt Hardy hit a twist of fate from the top rope. Looks almost more like a stunner from the top rope because Sheamus did not lay out for that. But
Diamond cutter.
uh-oh, Matt's going for the Swanton Bomb. Oh, wait, they pull him out. Now he's jumped on the outside on both Sheamus and Cesaro. No, I think the Dungeon of Doom is. I mean, it's people can. I mean, it's not a great gimmick or a great group by any stretch. It's not one of the classic stables of all time, but we still talk about them mostly because it was kind of a goofy time in wrestling. You had WB doing the New Generation stuff. You had, we got both Hardys perched on the top, double team move.
What was Brutus Beefcake's gimmick for? What was
he was
Zodiac.
Zodiac. Yeah, he was Hulk Hogan's inside guy, which kind of made. Here's the thing with that Dungeon of Doom. I've always said that we got 105 remaining, 3-3. I've always said that Hogan showed a lot of glimpses of being a heel.
You had
during that run, and I've always said that Hogan kind of did some heel. I mean, even in his run with WB, he did some heelish things, and and obviously Hogan worked as a heel before he became the biggest baby face anybody would ever know, and really vaulted the business. But there's been years that he kind of shown those heel.
Man, Matt Hardy got busted.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, he did. He got
busted. Dang, dude.
Sheamus and Cesaro just took the lead. 4-3 with 18 seconds remaining.
Where is Matt bleeding from?
I don't know. It looks like the side of his head.
Yeah, just wait till your match ends.
I wonder who did it. I bet it was Sheamus because Sheamus always hurts somebody.
I mean, it's gushing. Are you done?
Yeah. 4-3. Time just ran out.
I called it.
Boy, he is busted wide. I wonder, is it above his eye there?
I don't know. It don't really show it.
Well, they're not going to, I don't think.
I mean, it keeps showing them, but it don't really. You can't really tell because his hair's in the way where it's coming from.
Well, I don't think they'll do a close up of him. They usually don't.
They won't. I didn't even know he was bleeding until I saw the ref with the gloves on.
I bet Sheamus busted him open. Sheamus always busts people open. Sheamus hurts more people than anybody in WB. And I'm a Sheamus fan, but it's true. I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, he almost killed Jerry the King Lawler.
Well, and he knocked Jeff's teeth out. So
there was another thing they done too. I can't remember. There's been a bunch of stuff. Those bro kicks are brutal if you don't.
I just think that he works. I just think he's a little bit sloppy, man. Dave Meltzer brought up. They brought up a really good point. I think we talked about it a little bit on the podcast. People complained about people complain about Jinder Mahal and say, but he said, Jinder's never hurt anybody. He said, you look at what he did to Finn Balor. He said at least Finn Balor was moving. He said, maybe he misjudged how close he was with the speed that he was kind of coming through with. He said when Sheamus knocked out Jeff's tooth, Jeff was just laying there. It wasn't like he was a moving target or anything. And he said Sheamus has done that a lot, and he never gets kind of called out for it.
And Jinder's a big dude too. I mean, I'm not sure Sheamus is not big, but it's crazy. There's a.
It's his. It's actually looks like his neck. They're pointing at.
Yeah, it's either behind his ear or his neck. Some of his ear ripped off.
Shauna said it was his eye, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it probably was Sheamus. He probably kicked him or something.
Probably. That's all knock on Sheamus. I mean, people get hurt all the time, but Sheamus is just a little bit loosey-goosey in the ring sometimes.
I think this is the game we need to start playing again.
Rocket League? Yeah, we probably need to. It's going to be on the Switch, which is awesome.
Did you see the rap battle on SmackDown the other night?
No, but I heard that
they threw some serious shade toward Xavier Woods.
Yeah, I heard that they brought up the Page thing, which was
they really
weird.
didn't bring it up. They told Big E to don't get rated R like your boy Xavier or something.
Right.
So.
Xavier Woods is really cool, man. I've heard him on a couple podcasts, and I'm a big fan of the kind of funny guys, Greg Miller and all those guys. And he's been on their show a little bit. Dan Reichert from Giant Bomb has had some really cool kind of things with Xavier Woods. So, yeah, he's funny, man, and he was great in TNA. I think people forget that how good he was when he was in TNA, when he was Consequences Creed, and him and R-Truth was a tag team. I thought that they did a really good job with those two, but he's always been a really good worker, and I'm glad that he got his shot, man, in WWE, because I think that he's genuinely seems to be a pretty cool dude and works really hard. And I'm not saying he'll ever be a world champ. I'm not even saying that he'll be a singles champ, but I think he's definitely a great performer. I know that during that E60 ESPN did on NXT, they pretty much said that one of the guys there, and I can't remember who it was, it might have been Dusty at the time, but I can't remember who it was, pretty much he said, this guy's ready, you either put him up or you release him. Like, let him go do something else, because he's ready for the prime time. If you're not going to move him up, then you need to just let him go. And that's when he finally got I think he actually tagged with R-Truth when he first came up. And then it kind of went from there. So I'm a big fan, man. I think Xavier Woods seems to be a pretty cool dude.
Did you see where they're doing another flag match between Rusev and?
Yeah. Speaking of 1984.
Well, I mean, they've already had one, didn't they? Where if they won.
No, that was
or something like that.
That was him and Mark Henry, I think.
Oh yeah, that was Mark Henry.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be USA's turn to win. Even though I think Rusev should win, just because I think they need to bring him back at the boom.
I think it's interesting as we head into the women's championship match. It's Alexa Bliss, who is the Raw Women's Champion, versus Sasha Banks. And I like Alexa Bliss. I think she's a good worker, great character. I hate that they jobbed Bayley out to her so hard. I thought that was really bad. And I'm not really for sure where they're going to move with Bayley now. I think Bayley's a great talent, and I think, and I've said this numerous times, I think she's like the Sting of the women's division. I think she's someone that can really be kind of that John Cena to a certain extent, obviously with a lot more hardcore fans liking her of the women's division, and I think that they're kind of screwing that up right now. So I'm not really for sure how they're going to kind of get her back on track, I guess. And I like Sasha. I have nothing against Sasha, and this is probably going to be a pretty good match, hopefully. But what are you eating, Joe?
I'm not eating anything.
Oh, you're getting a crunch or maybe your beer drumming your mic.
I'll move my microphone back up. You might have heard it hit
okay. Is it rubbing your beard now?
Oh, it's not doing anything. It's just sitting there.
Oh, it's popping.
How's it popping?
I don't know. That's what I asked you. Okay.
I'm going to mute it quick. I'll make sure nothing's on. I might have something on it.
Joe, did you watch the Gauntlet match or not?
I like that they're not booking what's her name as just a beast.
Nah, well they are, but they're just not giving her the belt.
But I like that they're not. I mean, I know she's not getting the belt sooner or later, but they're giving it. It's not an unbelievable thing. Like, you remember Lesnar was booked as this incredible beast. Nobody was beating him, just throwing people around. They're not making it like that. They're giving everybody a shot.
Trust Kill 260 said Rusev should wear a MAGA hat to the ring. Rusev should wear a "Make America Great Again" hat to the ring since he's Bulgarian and Russian. That'd be funny.
Or a Trump shirt.
Yeah, something like that.
Instead of a Bulgarian flag,
Rusev.
he brings out a Trump flag.
But I thought that gauntlet match was really good. I thought it established Nas as a monster, but I thought the end of it was really good.
Yes, that's what I like. I like that book.
Yep.
The booking her as a monster, but they're still booking her as somebody that can beat.
Yeah, I think that, and at some point, Lawson Austin said he could head up the cybersecurity division. Rusev can. I think that I like Nia. I think Nia's very athletic. Reminds me, speaking of Vader, and Bam Bam. Obviously not as polished as those guys, but sometimes she does things you're like, man, she really shouldn't be able to do that at her size. And that's what we've always said about Bam Bam and Vader, is that, hey, how can they do that? They outweigh their opponent by 200 pounds, but they can do all this crazy stuff. And I think Nia's she's different in a division that needs a lot of different. And I think that at some point she'll be a champ. I think they've done a really good job I thought they've actually really booked the women's division quite well the last couple months. I think SmackDown's had some issues, but I think they're starting to kind of work out of that. Because I like Carmella. I think Carmella as a heel works really, really well. As much as people had an issue with the way the first ladder match went, I think Edge brought up a good point on him and Christian's podcast, is that, that brings a lot of heat and people are still talking about it. And I think that it's no different than, if a valet jumped in, or like Maurice, helping Ambrose, it's no different in my opinion. It just so happens that, a guy went up and grabbed it in a women's match, but how many times has Kane helped, when Seth Rollins won the Money in the Bank, Kane put him on his shoulders and lifted him up. It's the same thing. And I think if, the women's division has to be open, because, that's all he is, Ellsworth. That's all he is just a valet. And I think it's a neat kind of role reversal, right? To have a man as a valet and a woman as the competitor. I think it's a really cool role reversal.
They should make him into the next Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, I think at some point Ellsworth kind of will run its course. I think that's what they're doing with him being suspended for 30 days or whatever, kind of get him off TV a little bit and then kind of keep him kind of refreshed in this. But I've always thought that dynamic between Carmella and Ellsworth, I thought was a neat kind of change and a good switch up. I don't, Trustkill 260 talking about Rusev. He said, could Rusev actually benefit if they brought Vladimir Kozlov in to be his manager? Could it push him into the main event status? I think that, and I hate to say this because I really like Rusev. We talk about, good big men, but he's stuck with a crappy gimmick. I don't know where they kind of, just like Jinder Mahal, I think will always have that gimmick. WB doesn't know how to book, like, I guess a European type of, minus if you're British or Irish or something like that. They just has always leaned, in wrestling as a whole, has always leaned on the bad guy foreigner. And in Jinder Mahal's case, it's kind of got him to the top. But, Rusev started off, that's what they started him as. And I don't know what, Rusev deserves to be in a better position than what he is. I think he is a future world champion if they book him correctly. But I don't know how they get around the whole, hey, look who's world champion, the angry foreigner that hates Americans. I just think he's stuck with a crappy gimmick. I don't know what other gimmick they could have given him. They could have given him more of a European businessman type of thing, kind of like they did with Del Rio. I think Del Rio's gimmick worked a lot, even though, he was, he still had, that foreigner vibe to him. They kind of booked him differently, kind of like the Mexican version of $1 Million Man. I think it worked with him. I think that Rusev think they did a good job of getting him away from Lana for a little bit. I think if they could have came out, booked him like a businessman type of thing. I think Rusev's a great athlete. I think he's a great performer. I just don't know how they're going to get him out of that gimmick. I think that's the only thing that's holding him back.
I hate that stupid thing that she does.
Which one?
The double jointed thing. Every time it gets me every time, man. She's done it once before during on SmackDown, I think.
I don't think I've seen it yet.
Oh, you'll see it. Trust me, you'll know it because your stomach will get queasy here in a second.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, she's double jointed.
She's double jointed.
I hate when she does that, man.
That may be the.
She's done it once before on SmackDown in a match. And me and Mom was like, oh my God. And then she fixed it. And she done it there, and I forgot about that. I thought I was going to throw up everywhere. I was sick. I was like, oh God.
Now, everybody's watching on
I thought Mom was going to pass out when she saw it.
That was pretty neat. I think it's the first I've seen her do it. Trustkill 260 said he feels like Ricardo Rodriguez made the difference with Del Rio. I think that added to the gimmick and helped. I think Del Rio had that gimmick down. Now, obviously, Rodriguez was a good part of that. I think it did help, obviously. But even after Ricardo left, I still felt like Del Rio had a really good gimmick that wasn't like I'm an American hating foreigner. I think his gimmick kind of had a lot more longevity. And I think even to a certain extent, I think Rusev versus Jinder. I think Jinder has a more long-term gimmick or long-term character than what Rusev does, as far as like a little bit more flexibility to it.
I'm actually a big Jinder Mahal fan. The more I watch him, the more I like him.
I think he's good. I think he's really taken the ball and kind of ran with it. I think putting the Singh brothers with him, and just like, what maybe Rodriguez did for Del Rio, I think the Singh brothers has done really awesome work with him, and it makes him seem like more of a contender to have more of an entourage with him. But he talked about bringing Vladimir Kozlov. I don't remember Kozlov being great on the mic. I think he was funny on the mic. I think if he brought him in as like an enforcer, maybe.
I know who they should put with him, and I know he's in NXT right now, but I think Paul Infield.
Oh, yeah, the guys with the Authors of Pain.
Mm-hmm. I think he would be a really good mouthpiece for. I mean, the Russos don't really need a mouthpiece. I think he's a really good worker as far as the microphone skill goes. I think he's gotten a lot better. But if you're not putting somebody with him, I mean, that's somebody that's been with, the Road Warriors, people like that, and Authors of Pain. And you can even bring up the Authors of Pain and put it and just make a huge, this unstoppable, like, force of a stable almost. But I think it would be somebody like that. I don't think he needs like a. I mean, I think an ex-wrestler would be good, but I think somebody that is known, like, from like an old school type manager or something like that would be really good.
Titus Worldwide.
Go ahead.
Well, what they should do is turn him face and put him Titus Worldwide. That's what they should do.
That'd be cool.
Would be pretty cool. I'm a big fan of the Titus stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's doing tremendous stuff. I think he's been doing really, really good stuff. So far, so good with this match, though. They're working a really good match. We're watching Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks for the WB title. What do we got left, Joe? We've got Ambrose and Miz for the Intercontinental title. And then we've got Roman and Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. And in the world title match, right? Is that it?
I think that's it. There's not really been a bad match on here.
No, it's been a strong card. I think they did a really good job of booking these matches. Like I said, I think some of these storylines have actually been set up pretty well for this pay-per-view. And I think that's a challenge when you have so many pay-per-views a year now. Because I think SmackDown's, 2 weeks from now, right? I think it's hard to keep things interesting. And I think they've done a really good job at kind of building this one up. I don't know I don't know. I don't know what they've changed to do that, but something's kind of changed with this pay-per-view. I feel like they've done a really good job of doing the build up towards it. They made it seem special versus just another episode of Raw and SmackDown, basically, which what some of these pay-per-views kind of devolve into. Is just, an exclusive episode of Raw and SmackDown on the WWE Network, basically. We want to thank Trustkill 260 for hanging out with us tonight. He's pretty much been here the whole way, or her, I don't know, one of the two. Been hanging out with us tonight. Of course, Lawson Austin has been here. Give shout out to KM Gaming and more. They've been here as well, kind of hanging out with us this evening, keeping the conversation flowing. It does help to have a chat going, and sometimes we haven't done this in a while, but the last time I think I just discovered how to pull the chat out instead of trying to lean on another way to get it. So thanks to Trustkill 260 for keeping the conversation kind of flowing as well as we talk about this pay-per-view and stuff. Jared may be on a little bit. He said that he's going to I'm a dude having a good time. Good. Awesome. You guys do this every pay-per-view. We don't do it every pay-per-view. This one, I think the last one we did was WrestleMania, actually. And so we try to do the ones that interest us the most. We try to do, obviously, the big four, which is Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. We try to do those. And then ever so often, like this one, Samoa Joe and Lesnar, we thought it was a good one to kind of go with because, again, kind of one of those dream matches you don't get a chance to see every day. So we were all really excited about that match. So we picked this one just randomly. We haven't done a SmackDown one yet as far as just their show, but we try to pick out the ones that we would enjoy because let's be 100% honest, a lot of these aren't great shows, unfortunately. You do get some decent matches because they get a little bit more time, but like I said before, sometimes there's just an exclusive episode of Raw and SmackDown, and they're not treated as special as possible. But this one I had kind of a special feel to. Ooh, nice move. As Sasha kicks out there. But we try to do it every so often, just kind of get together. And me, Jared, and Joe are all best friends, and we try to we don't get to talk to each other as much as we would like. Joe lives about an hour and a half away from us. And then, of course, Jared has 3 kids. I have my kid here now, and so we don't get a chance to really hang out as much as we used to, but this is a good chance for us to kind of get together and watch wrestling, which is something that we're all very passionate about and really something that kind of, made us friends, really, to be, at least for me and Joe to be friends with Jared because we all really liked wrestling and music and just discovered we had a lot in common. So, Sasha's got the bank statement locked in. Bliss is in the middle of the ring, trying to get to the ropes. Funny enough, Trustkill 260 talk about how we should do more of some of the older matches. We do have a podcast. We have Monsters of Geek podcast where we've tried to do a weekly episode. I've had some issues with GarageBand lately, so I have 2 episodes that's in the queue. But we usually get together with our friends Andrew and Daniel, along with Jared and Joe and myself. We talk about geek culture and everything, but me and Joe and Jared actually do a wrestling podcast from time to time. It's not on a schedule. We don't do like every week, but we tend to let wrestling news kind of build up, and then we kind of have an hour to 2-hour podcast. We're actually we are actually doing kind of classic matches where we are going to film kind of commentary for a match. And the first one we're going to do is the Wrestle War New Japan Pro Wrestling #1 contender tag team match between the Steiners and 2 guys from New Japan. And I can't remember their names all of a sudden because the match is a very weird match. It starts off pretty athletic and then kind of devolves into just almost like a shoot style match, and it's really odd. So we do a lot of those, and that's an idea that we kind of tossed around. But next episode, when we do, we're going to try to do a commentary for that match. And then I think we've already got some ideas for some other classic matches, and all of those will be on the WWE Network, so people can actually see them. But if we do one on YouTube, we'll definitely reference the match that we'll be watching. And but yeah, we are going to try to do that. We are going to try to do more of that. And I know Jared's
Macho Man.
Huh? Where?
You'll see him here in a second.
Oh, okay. But Jared is definitely, I think, Joe, you can. Oh, it's just a count out. Oh crap, that's a stupid way to end that match. Well, I guess
not really.
Not really. I think it protects it both. Yeah, that's fine.
And it's a very heelish thing to do too.
Yep.
I think Alexa Bliss is probably one of the best heels in the company.
Oh yeah, I agree. Do you think that anyway, let me continue the podcast. I think me and Joe can both agree that Jared's kind of a historian of wrestling. Yes. He knows so much. There he is. He knows so much about wrestling, and just he's a big fan of the old NWA stuff, and he could get kind of Jim Cornette on us when it comes with the with the new stuff sometimes, but he's a big fan of indie wrestling, and he likes what WB, some of what WB has done, but he's kind of like me. He doesn't really watch Raw and SmackDown exclusively, and Joe doesn't. Obviously, we all don't watch just WB stuff, but he keeps up with it, and he knows stuff that just matches upon matches of stuff. So it's going to be fun to see him kind of pick his matches and kind of pick some gems out. As Sasha's going crazy on Alexa Bliss. He talked about the Punk, the Hero versus Punk matches, and that's if you watch Punk's DVD, that his matches with Chris Hero kind of put him on the map. Of course, the Cabana matches did too, but his stuff with Hero really kind of put him out, both him and Hero, in the limelight. So those are matches that I've seen maybe bits and pieces of. I've never really seen all of them that they had. So, or the majority of them. So that's something definitely we could take a look at. Whoa. Okay.
If Punk had it his way, Hero would have been a third member of the Shield.
Yep. I think Hero. Big thing about Hero was always his body type. Man, he could never keep his. And even now, and I guess it's not. He just can't. It's different than how it's kind of weird because we talk about Owens and he's definitely not a prototypical WB person or as far as body type, and never probably will be. But he kind of holds his weight better, I guess. He's like, myself and my dad are kind of more of a short, kind of stubby kind of things. We're more broad. That's how kind of Owens is to a certain extent. But if you look at Hero just kind of looks bad sometimes, especially if he wears the wrong tights or something. And it's much more noticeable now. Obviously, he's like Owens in the sense that he can go all day. Like his weight doesn't hurt him in the ring by any stretch, but he just looks worse, a little bit worse. He kind of looks out of shape versus Owens is like, Owens is look totally out of shape, type of thing. So, but yeah, well, I've always liked Chris Hero. His stuff in ROH is brilliant, especially when he was teaming with Cesaro and the World's Great, the Kings of Wrestling was always one of my favorite tag teams in the Indies. And I hope. Do what?
They're bringing the Punjabi prison back.
Oh yeah, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, they're bringing the Punjabi prison match back. He even referenced Great Khali the other night on SmackDown, apparently.
You mean the fact that he wasn't in it?
No, that was the last time it was. Somebody, Dave Lagana, which used to write for WB and did for Impact for a while, talked about that. It's the first time the Punjabi prison match has been on TV. The last time WB wasn't even HD yet. That's how long it's been.
Well, the Great Khali wasn't even in that match.
Oh yeah, because he got popped for steroids.
Yeah. So that's the first time somebody from India might have been in that. even though I know I'm not from India, he's Canadian, but I think he's Canadian, isn't he?
Who? Oh, well, yeah. Gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trustkill 267 is a terrible idea. I think this is what you fall into when you have this many pay-per-views. You're kind of grasping at straws to see what would make it special, and you come out, how about a Punjabi prison match? And you're just like, yeah, it could work, I guess.
Prison match.
I think it's a core. I mean, I think you've got two guys that can do more with it than Taker and Mark Henry could.
I'm surprised.
Mark Henry's my wife's favorite wrestler. Angry Carl Winslow, she calls him.
They had to pick Bamboo because it's so strong. So Mark Henry.
Yeah.
Sexual chocolate.
I'm actually really upset Tozawa didn't win the Cruiserweight title. I mean, I love Neville, and I guess it's okay that, because I think Neville's a great heel. Oh, here's what I was going to ask you. Do you think that they used the heel rolling out of the ring right before getting pinned? You think they used that too much? Because they used it in the Tozawa Neville match as well. And you use it a lot. Like Owens uses it a lot. Like, Jericho.
A lot of people that uses it a lot.
Yeah.
Even in different promotions. It's a heel thing to do.
I mean, it used to be like if you got hit with a finisher so hard that it knocked you out of the ring, and now it's just like you get hit with a finisher and then you roll out of the ring and they're like grass trying to catch you type of thing.
I mean, even Omega done it the other night. They had that awesome sequence.
Right.
Right before he got pinned. I think it's a good heel thing to do, but I mean, like I said, it's probably done a little too much. I don't think that it should be done as much.
Yeah, I've just noticed that they've used it. They've used it a lot more lately, it seems.
I like they put people with the Miz game.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think I think it's great because those, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, they're really good wrestlers, and they just really haven't found the gimmick that works for them. And Curtis Axel did the Axel Mania thing, and Hulk Hogan, got in trouble and they had to take it away from him. And but I think that they finally get a chance to kind of shine with Miz, and I think it's great for him.
I'm glad that to a point, I'm glad that they didn't put Bo with Bray like I had read that they was gonna do.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't either. I do like the contrasting styles of Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
Curtis Axel kind of stylish suit and looks nice, and you got Bo Dallas that looks like he's representing Ed Hardy. I think it's kind of neat that there's such contrasting styles. Though I hate the name Mizraj.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's bad. It's bad.
Mizraj?
Yeah, they could have came up with something better.
Misfits.
Yeah, well, did he used to call them the Misfits at some point?
It's better than Mizraj.
I get what they're trying to do, though. They're trying to do an entourage type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, but they should have named it something better. I'm not for sure what that would be, but it's definitely not Mizraj.
You know what I miss? I miss Mizdow.
I do miss Mizdow.
To bring back Damien. That was a stupid cut by WWE.
Well, I think he just ran out of stuff to do with him, unfortunately. It's a good cut for him. I think it's always a good cut.
It's a great cut for him.
Yeah, and apparently they parted on really good terms. So it was one of those things like, hey, man, we'll probably bring you back. We just don't have anything for you right now. So what's your opinion on Dean Ambrose?
I like Dean. I think Dean is almost like a Piper. Because Piper, he never even won the world title for WWE.
Right, that's right.
So And I think with Ambrose, I think he reminds me a lot of Piper.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of Piper, and he reminds me of a mixture of Piper and Hill.
Which I wrote an article about way back when. Yep. I think that
he's a little too over the top though. Sometimes.
Well, I think the difference between him, I think he's a goofy over the top at times. I think that kind of takes away from what his character should be. Because I think you look at Piper and Pillman. Pillman was over the top in that crazy way where you kind of believed he was crazy. Piper was kind of the same way, but just a little more humor to it. That they were over the top in the sense that I think these guys are really crazy, almost like it's an extension of their personality. I think with Ambrose, Ambrose's personality is a lot like his character, but the issue that you have is they've kind of souped it up, and that's not part of his character. Like if you hear him, like I watched The Table for Three with him and Owens and Samoa Joe, which was really good, and he does kind of have his laid back, I don't care type of attitude. I think if they would, kind of push that ahead of it and then kind of add some craziness to it, but there's sometimes where he gets a little bit too comedic for my taste.
That's me. He's a little bit too comedic.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is probably legit crazy if you watch his.
His CZW stuff was nuts.
CZW, yeah.
And I like when it's like the Ambrose Asylum and some of the stuff, but I don't think he does that. Like the stuff he did with Brock Lesnar was great.
Yeah.
I thought that was some of his best stuff. And even though apparently that got him in trouble when he talked about Brock, did you hear that interview? When he was on Stone Cold's podcast after Raw one night, and basically said that he's talking about the Brock Lesnar match, and Ambrose was like, he said he was terrible to work with. He said he didn't want to do anything. It was all about Brock, and apparently he got in trouble for it. Because he said during their match with WrestleMania, he asked, he was coming with ideas, and Brock said he didn't want to do that. Brock didn't want to do this. So he said, I just let him go out there and throw me around. He said he wouldn't do anything else. And he said, I just really wasn't impressed. And apparently WP, they got kind of mad. And apparently people say that he doesn't like, that he's a lot like Punk in the sense that he doesn't like a lot of the stuff he has to do outside the ring. And some people call him kind of lazy, but he's great in the ring. He loves wrestling. He just doesn't like everything else about it that WB does. So I think Ambrose is going to be one of those guys where you may actually see him not necessarily do it as bad as Punk did as far as kind of burn bridges, but I think that he will be one of those guys that at some point kind of leaves just because he's kind of tired of everything else but the wrestling. I think that WB has to be really careful with this now because you've got New Japan and you've got ROH, and Ambrose leaves and show up in ROH, and it becomes kind of like a WCW situation, right? Where you see these guys that, even though obviously Ambrose and Rollins and Balor, they all made they were all wrestling famous before that, but now WB has taken these guys, these indie guys, and have kind of put them on a different pedestal now. What happens when those guys start leaving? Like, what happens if Dean Ambrose leaves and shows up in New Japan? Or what happens if he shows up in ROH? Like, that's a huge coup now.
I mean, look at Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, same thing. Yep. I think it's an interesting – because I'm glad that they're promoting a lot of these guys, and I think the wrestling product, even though people complain about it, I think the wrestling product has been a lot better. I don't think the booking's been better, but at least they have athletes that can put on great matches now. I think – it's going to be a double-edged sword that if you can't keep a guy like Dean Ambrose and he just wants to go wrestle, he shows up on an ROH pay-per-view, and that's big wrestling news. Like, that's something that could put ROH, to us is already on the map, but that nationally, if they could get a big WB star to come over.
Well, I mean, if you get, even like New Japan,
mm-hmm.
Trying to get a good North America
following,
which they have, or they're getting now because of people like Omega and the Young
Bucks and
Cody Rhodes,
Okada, and all those guys.
I mean, but you get somebody like Ambrose maybe come over if he leaves or something like that. I mean, that's going to give him even more of a bigger
right
push. So
It's just interesting. Something I was starting to think about the other day, and I'll probably maybe write an article about it. But I think it's interesting that, for years, WB has had no competition. And people can say TNA for maybe a couple years when Hogan kind of came over and they had all those stars and they kind of messed it up. And, it's amazing. And people crap on WB, and I've done my fair share of it. I do think that it's crazy to me that how big a star, how they've kind of used AJ and how they use Samoa Joe. They've done a really good job of kind of putting them out there versus, TNA had these guys and really didn't do anything with them. I think Bobby Roode will be a huge star once he gets up to the main roster. And he was great in TNA, and TNA just could never get their creative right enough to kind of get them out there to be their number one superstars. And I guess it's just a global power WB has, I guess. I mean, it is a self, as far as what WB does, it's amazing. And I don't think he gets enough credit for being the company that it is. But, they're not the only wrestling promotion on the planet, but they're the only one that matters most of the time,
I think New Japan is changing that, though. I mean, New Japan has always been huge in Japan.
Right, sure. Well, New Japan's WB in Japan.
Yeah. But, I mean, but I think now, these days, they have a lot better matches than WB.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying WB still has 5-star matches every night, but I think you look at the guys that they have. I mean, you look at, what AJ's been doing on SmackDown, and we talked about Kevin Owens, and, we talked about even The Miz. I mean, The Miz is great. I just don't think that I don't know the story, and as much as we love indie wrestling, and sometimes those matches don't really need storylines. The Okada Omega rivalry has been a great story, and I just don't think WWE has. I think they have a really good chance to do Samoa Joe and Lesnar. I think the Triple H, Rollins stuff was good, but they just haven't been able to utilize these guys as much as they possibly could. I think Balor has been extremely underutilized since he has come back. And there's been rumors that he's going to be put into the IC title hunt once this Ambrose Miz feud is done. But
see, having a belt on somebody like Lesnar hinders people like that, because you could have more like a Samoa Joe, if Joe won the title per se. You can have a Joe Finn battle.
But I also think that I see your point there, but I also want to say it could have the opposite effect, that because the world title isn't there, that you get a lot of guys ready. You can put guys in situations to shine. The issue that you have is they haven't done it. I think it's a challenge without a belt involved sometimes, but I think it just shows that this creative team, you have to be able to book matches without the title presence. I mean, that's just it is what it is right now. I mean, and you have to be creative enough. I thought the Rollins Samoa Joe feud could have been great, but they kind of dropped that too early, I think, to a certain extent. I think that they should have done a Balor Rollins feud right out when Balor came out. I think it's allowed some of these guys to shine, but I do agree in the same situation that they haven't had a lot of high profile title matches because Brock hasn't been there. But I think that you look at, what the Miz has done with the IC title has been awesome. What Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho did for the US title, and what AJ's probably going to do for it. Now I will say that when they had the rosters together, which I think probably the split has hurt storytelling because you don't have a roster to kind of play around with. I think what they did with AJ and Cena and AJ and Reigns and they had more of a roster to play around with, and they don't have that right now. And I think you're starting to see a little bit of redundancy that hurt the last time they split rosters.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's probably the number one problem, to be quite honest.
Here's the thing: I know they have a lot of people if they keep the roster together, but you have more feud possibilities for these Intercontinental title, U.S. title.
Sure.
Even the tag team, you have more deep possibility. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about, a heel versus heel tag team, which I don't mind at all. But you could push somebody. I know maybe New Day or even the Alphas.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see the Alpha and Revival go at it on the big stage.
Sure.
Get great matches. But I think it hinders them because, you could see AJ and possibly Joe feud for the championship.
Right. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. I just think that the brand split doesn't help with that. I just, I just don't I just don't know because like at this point, the brand split is very heavily on signing, Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, bringing something in new, and also NXT. I think NXT has been a great asset at WWE, but I also think that they are putting too many eggs in the basket per se. Because they are leaning heavily on NXT to bring new talent up when things start to get stale. But I don't think that helps it completely. I mean, it's great to see Samoa Joe when he debuted, or when Rude comes up, or, when Johnny Gargano finally comes up, and guys like that. But I just think that the roster is so thin that there's only so many opportunities now. And I think some people will argue that, there's, as Ambrose is pinned by The Miz there, and he'll retain the IC title. I would much rather have a 3-hour Raw with a full roster versus a 3-hour Raw which I'd rather not have a 3-hour Raw with the same things going on. Yeah. I'd rather have SmackDown and Raw continue storylines like it did in the old days when Raw and SmackDown was treated as peers, right? As far as shows, and they don't do that. And I think you could have a full roster live 3-hour Monday night, and then you could do 2 hours on Tuesday to continue that, or Wednesday, or whatever, to continue that storyline. But they didn't do that, and I think that hurts. I think 2 shows should be more than enough to establish a strong roster, and they just never did that.
And I think it hurts too that you have so many shows at the 205. I know 205 wrestles on Raw too, but you have the 205, you have the European stuff. I think you should bring some of those European guys over and let them wrestle on Raw, even if it is just their own stuff. I'd love to see a Pete Dunne.
Sure.
On Raw or SmackDown.
But you also gotta think that it's so weird because I feel like that people are getting lost on a smaller roster than they did on the big roster. Almost. Like I feel like there's some guys.
They're getting lost because look, 205 and the European stuff's only on the network.
Right.
And then there's people getting lost now on Raw and SmackDown, but you don't see it as often on those two because they're on TV.
Right.
You see them every day, but I forget some of the cruiserweights sometimes when I see them.
Sure.
And the only European guy that I can remember is Pete Dunne. I don't even know the other one.
I just think I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying these guys' jobs are easy because it's not. I think sometimes as wrestling fans we just think it's as easy as putting the Bullet Club together, which it could be that easy, I guess. But WWE has no competition, and I think that's part of it. I think they can push the same guys all the time because there is no competition. And I think that's where I really hope that ROH and New Japan, whether it be separately or together, can really make a dent. Because I think it is going to come down to, at some point, one of these big guys leaving and showing up on an ROH show. I think Cody Rhodes to us is a big coup for them, but it's not as big as like Seth Rollins showing up, coming back to ROH now, or heck, even a Braun Strowman showing up at the New Japan or something. And I think at some point, could you imagine in some crazy world where Roman Reigns shows up at a New Japan event. You know, I mean, how big that would be for the wrestling world. And I think it's interesting that could very well happen, and I kind of want it to happen. You know, I want WB was, you know, WB was better with competition. They've always been better with competition because it forces them to do different things. Like there would be no Rock, there would be no Stone Cold without WCW almost putting them out of business. And so I think it's interesting that they are signing all this great talent, but at some point, when does that talent look at WB and be like, man, I really can't shine there anymore? Like I can't, before I could, but now I can't, type of thing.
Yeah.
And when does like Austin Aries left? You know, when does some of these NXT guys start to leave because they know that they can't? It's hard because not just because not that they're not talented, but they have so many people ahead of them now that work the same style and got over, and now it's going to be harder for them to get there. Versus, no offense to Finn Balor, but you know, Balor's a great wrestler, but when he came up, when Nakamura came up, you know, they're going to be over because they were one of the first ones to kind of establish themselves in NXT, and now it's going to be harder. Going to start to leave.
Yeah, I understand.
And the indie scene's kind of going through a renaissance now where you can leave and make, I mean, the Young Bucks by themselves probably make more money than some people in WB does. You know.
Exclusive rights to their name.
Yep.
They got the Hot Topic.
The Hot Topic deal. Yep.
So, and then I think Omega probably makes better money than most of these guys too.
Sure. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I think Omega would be a big star in WB, but I think you're starting to get guys too that you're also starting to get guys that have control of their own careers. And I think when in WBE you have guys that kind of go with the flow and just do what WB tells you to. You get guys like even Kevin Owens and even guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Like, you know, they're very opinionated on their character and they want that control of their character. You get a guy like Omega, the Young Bucks, that they've proven they don't need WB. You get them back there, and are they going to kind of bow down to a head writer's dumb decision when they've had more success than most people on the roster by themselves?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see them in WWE. I just don't think it's going to happen because of that. They're not going to have the creative freedom to do what they want to do.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to see them all come over and just
kill it. Right.
Yeah, I think the Bullet Club would be, you know, if they came over and it happened, be bigger than WO at this point in time.
Right.
Rich, I mean, I think me, you and Jared had that conversation, and I think we might talk about that in the podcast. So I won't touch on it too much, but you know, I think the thing with the Bullet Club does it's so exclusive.
Yeah.
And you know, the cool thing is like, let's take for instance with Adam Cole. You know, they actually kick people out of the club.
Right.
And they do it in an awesome way.
Yeah.
And it just helps them, you know, keep small and keep as an exclusive brand. Unlike the NWO who had people like Virgil and not knocking Scott Norton. I like Scott Norton as a wrestler, but he didn't have any business being in the show.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know. I want to say Disco Inferno would have been WO for a minute. I might be wrong on that. I can't remember. But yeah, it really got too big, and I don't think the Bullet Club would be that way.
I want to give a shout out to Trustkill 260. It looks like that he is he's going to put his kids to sleep. So we thank you for hanging out with us tonight, man. He's got some questions he's going to send us. He already sent us some questions here we'll answer throughout these next two matches. But thanks for hanging out with us, man. We'll be back. We'll announce it on Facebook or Twitter. So kind of keep a hold. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel, and that's how the easiest way for us to know. And of course, we talked about the podcast as well. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, man. We really appreciate it, and keeping the conversation going. So.
Wow,
He does have some questions for us to answer. He talks about Enzo and Cass. You think it could be the next Diesel and HBK feud, or do they need each other? I think both those guys can be single stars. I think just like Diesel and HBK, I don't think they necessarily need each other. I think it's going to be interesting what they do with Enzo, more so than Cass, because I think they're going to take the Diesel route with Cass. I don't know if Enzo will be Shawn Michaels, but I think Enzo could definitely be an asset to that company. I think he could be a star if they book him right. But I think Cass is on the Diesel train, as far as what kind of push he's getting.
Oh yeah. I've always said it that he reminds me a lot of Nash with the build and everything. I don't know what they'll do. I think Enzo would be a great asset to the 205. Even though I think he's definitely 205, I think he's actually less, but I think he'd be a great asset on the main roster as well. With his mic skills and everything. I think you don't have to develop Cass as much as a single competitor because we've seen it before. We've seen him in a 4-way match or 5-way match for title contention. So you don't have to work as hard. But Enzo, I think you have to work a little bit harder to really put him as a single competitor because we've really never seen him work a single match that well. But I think both of them are really great.
Joe, I can barely hear you again, man. I'm getting a crunching sound from you, too.
I don't know where that crunching sound's coming from.
Yeah, I'm not really for sure either. Other question he had was, had a couple questions here. Of course, we've talked about this on the podcast a little bit as well about Jinder Mahal and WWE showing interest in India. How long will he stay on the top of the card? I think it's up to Jinder, to be quite honest. I think he's done a really good job. I think the only issue that I had was that, somebody, one of the guys from What Culture, Adam Pachetti, and we talked about this on the podcast a little bit. He tweeted that, the people that are complaining about Jinder are the same people that complain about WB not pushing their mid card or lower talents. And that's a valid point. As I said on the podcast, my issue was that, people comparing him to JBL. JBL was an established guy. Like, he was part of a tag team championship match. He was part of, he was part of probably one of the better tag teams that we've ever together. He was hardcore champ, I think, for a little bit. I think he was even European champ at one point. So he was already an established kind of mid-card guy. Jinder has never been established as anything but a jobber. And I think that was what a lot of people had, was that if they knew they was going to go into India, then his push should have started 6 months before. Like, he should have won the IC title or he should have won something else besides just, putting him right to the top. And even Roman, I mean, people complain about them putting him up to the top, but Roman was still, he's established. So you could see at least, it could make sense for him to be champ. But with Jinder, I think to Jinder's credit, like you said, Joe, I think he's took the ball and ran with it. I think he's a great heel character. I think the Singh brothers have added a lot to it. I think it's a different type of foreigner character. I don't think we see a lot of, I guess when it comes to nationality, like Indian nationalities, I guess on the big stage like that. So I think that, it's up to Jinder how far he kind of goes. I think he's done a really good job. I think Randy Orton has a lot to do with that. I think Randy's a good guy to put him up against as far as how their styles and characters kind of mesh. But I think that he's actually done a really good job.
Yeah, man, I'm a big Jinder fan. I think he's one of the heels that WWE needs, and we don't see that. You don't really see a heel that much anymore. I mean, you ever
the Miz. The Miz.
I think the Miz is probably the only one that you've seen long term. You ever seen a tweener or they just his face. And I think the Miz and Rusev and Jinder are the three, hills that WWE depend on. Besides, the tag team division where you have people like Anderson and Gallows, which they don't use properly. I mean, they should use them in singles matches as well.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are heck of wrestlers, but it's just, I don't know. I don't think they. I think that goes back to not using their talent properly, like you were talking about. Because I mean, they're totally lost. And I've not been watching Monday Night that much, and I don't know when the last time I've really seen the Good Brothers.
The Who Brothers?
The Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson.
Oh yeah, no, they've been on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that, I think that I think they should have established them early on and gave them the belts and let them have a good long run.
You're talking about one of the best tag teams in the world at the time, and then they come WWE and just kind of got lost in the hole.
Yep. Let's see. But I think Jinder's done a great job. Let's take a look. He's got a couple more questions here. Good match so far. I don't think it's nothing we haven't seen from these two yet, but they tend to put on a pretty good match. As much as people hate Roman Reigns, which I don't understand the hate completely. I think I understand the hating for the booking, but I think Roman has kind of done his best work with AJ and Strowman. Let's see.
Wish that he would lose the belt, or not the belt, but the vest. I mean, why can't he wear something like Braun Strowman's wearing? The two. I just hate that vest.
Well, I think one of the things that somebody brought up in a really good article that I read, I think it was by the Masked Man when he was still at Grantland, David Shoemaker, that Ambrose and Rollins have kind of established their identities away from the Shield. I think Roman never did. I mean, he still wears a flag jacket. For a while, he came through the crowd. Still has the same music as the Shield. I think that's kind of hurt Roman. That Roman has never really found his separate character away from the Shield, I guess. Oh, nice.
Oh. I mean, what could be Roman's?
I think, just a change in tots. Like, I think people underestimate just a change in tots, how much that can change a guy. And I think that him just coming out in the Shield flag jacket all the time is it's almost, and it kind of rubs the fans the wrong way that the guy that, they broke up the Shield and the guy that gets the biggest push is the guy that still looks like the Shield. And I think that, Jared talks about it all the time, tag teams, when they're tag team, they should have the same tots, and they should, it can do a lot to your character just to have a different look to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to wait till Jared gets on. Jared's about to come on, so we have a couple more questions. We'll answer all these as we talk, but Jared, I think, is about to jump on, so we're going to wait for a little bit here. See if he jumps on soon.
Well, I think the one thing, like you said, it hurt Reigns not changing all that stuff, but I mean, I think sometimes when Vince picks you to be the guy, it hurts you as well because he just runs it into the ground. And I know sometimes you have to keep going and keep trying to push them out there because some of these guys may not have made it. But I mean, you look at Cena. Cena's first gimmick. I love Cena's first gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
And then he switched over to the John Cena we know him as today. And I still think Cena's, a good worker. I do wish that he would add more of the thugonomic stuff back, but I mean, Reigns has gotten better on the microphone.
Mm-hmm. I think about it, and my argument has been with Reigns that I think Reigns is a better wrestler than Cena was when he came up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he could do I think a lot more.
I think
than what Cena could.
I think the thing about help Reigns, I don't know, they may have done this already. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head, but They even brought The Rock in for Reigns, didn't they?
Yeah. And I think that hurt him more than anything else.
Yeah. So, wow. But, I mean, they should have just turned Roman heel.
Yeah, I mean, I think Roman can be a good face. He's just been booked bad, man. I think he could be a really good heel too, but I just
when they started booking the Usos,
he's just been booked bad.
When they started booking the Usos heels, then they should have.
Sure, yep, I agree with that. And I think that the Usos has been at their best lately.
Oh yeah,
I think that they've been really good.
Well, I mean that's a prime example. I mean they got stale, super stale.
Right. Yep.
You know the coming out.
Yep.
Doing the little it's not haku. Can't think of the name
war dance thing.
Yeah, I can't think of the proper name of it, but and then they changed them, and that change really helped them out, and I think it helped WWE out. I mean, it was a great idea. Whoever came with that idea should get a raise in the corner office.
What's up, Jared?
Not much. What's going on?
Not much. We've been answering some questions. We've actually had some people in chat tonight. Again, big shout out to TrustKill260, and he's got some questions here, and I wanted to wait for you to kind of jump on so you can get in on it a little bit. Next question by TrustKill was, let's see, Bobby Roode made his NXT debut a year ago next month. How long before we see him on SmackDown or Raw? Could he be a surprise Royal Rumble entrant? Jared, you see Roode coming up this year, next year, around WrestleMania time?
I would say probably since they've already brought Nakamura up this year and a couple others. Yeah, I would say they hold off for a little bit longer on him.
I think the question is who takes up the NXT mantle? Do you think they sign somebody?
Well, I was reading the other day, Adam Cole and a couple others are in discussion again. So, I think they don't really have anybody built up right now, but he could come in immediately and take that position over.
I think him and is it Bobby Fish, right?
Yeah, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly.
Yep. I think O'Reilly has already made his debut on a dark match. But yeah, I've heard that he's already signed and been signed for a while now, I think. And I think it's pretty inevitable that Adam Cole will get there eventually.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think, man? When do you think they bring Roode up?
It won't be. I don't think it'll be this year. I don't think it'll be at Mania, like Jared said, or not Romania, but Royal Rumble. They already brought Dillinger up. They already brought Nakamura up. They got a Tommy and Hero, and those really are the only two, and Roderick Strong. But I think Roderick will probably be brought up to 205 soon. I think. I'm not saying that NXT is weak or anything. It's probably the weakest roster we've seen on NXT in a long time.
Yep. Hey, Jared, turn your TV down just a little bit.
Let me find my remote.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. It's not weak by any means, but, they've had injuries and, I think Kent or Hideo Itami, whatever you want to call him, I think he could have taken up that mantle if he hadn't been injured so many times.
Yeah, yep. And people forget, that Itami was really the guy that started all this. Like, he was the guy that started the, big kind of international kind of indie talent that we know of. And obviously, Itami was huge in Japan, but over here we knew him more for his independent stuff. It wasn't Samoa Joe. It wasn't Nakamura. It was Itami that started this. And it just sucks that he kind of has got lost in the shuffle because of how many injuries he's had.
Well, him and Owens came in together.
Yeah, I was gonna say
that's true.
Yeah, and Zayn too.
Zayn deserves a lot of credit, but
I really think if Tommy would have stayed healthy, I don't think Owens would have moved up as fast as he did. I think Tommy would have been the one that moved up.
I think Owens. I think Owens was put in NXT, but I think it was understood that he made such an impact, they was going to bring him up quick regardless.
Oh, yeah. I wish they'd let Kevin Owens. I think this is the thing as well. You know, we was talking earlier about the split. I mean, I think it'd be cool to see like a Mount Rushmore 3.0 in WWE.
Sure.
I think that would be really cool.
Let's take a look. Do you think, here's a good question, should they bring back the 4-horsewoman stable? Factions have been on and off since the Attitude Era ended, and with female talent at all-time high, they could create a second stable to fight. Here's the thing that I say no, and the issue is one, the women's, because they split it up, the women's division isn't as, I'm not saying strong, but it's not as big as it needs to be before you start doing factions. And it seems like for a while there, that's all they did was factions with women. And they still do to a certain extent. They even tried it on SmackDown with the welcoming committee and everybody else. I think it's dumb. I think they have to have these women, and they've done it the last year or so, kind of find themselves individually, and then you can start putting them in. I think they should have a women's tag team championship. I think it would make a lot more sense. It would give a little bit more purpose to some of these people, some of these women that maybe aren't in the title picture, and can give, me and Jared has always said that one of the greatest things Paul Heyman, one of his greatest talents, was just putting people together when they wouldn't do anything with them and them succeeding as a tag team. I think that would be beneficial for the women, but I don't think they should do any major factions until they get a deeper roster on both shows. That would make more sense.
Do you think that the women's roster would benefit if there was one title and is defended on both shows? Because, I mean, if you look at the men's roster, you've got 60 to 80 people. But you look at the women's and you've got 20,
Yep. And I just saw where Roman or Braun got pushed through that screen.
Yeah.
Just shows how WB likes to throw around money that they can just, throw people through screens like that. No, we talked about this a little bit earlier about roster size. I think they struggle with the men's roster now, let alone try to do it like you said, Jared, with even smaller roster with the women. I don't think that they've done a great job of using what they have now with the split shows. Me and Joe was talking about if they would treat SmackDown the same as Raw, that they could have a full roster and get a lot of people TV time if they knew how to like Jerry, when SmackDown first came out, Raw and SmackDown was on even par because the storylines would continue on to SmackDown. And I think if you have 2 live shows, you could do that, and it would be awesome, and it would probably alleviate some of that pressure in trying to book 2 separate shows and try to do 2 different things when you could get more people on the screen and still extend those storylines out through 2 shows. And I'm not saying it's easy to book 2 shows, but with a full roster, I'm sure it's a lot easier than what they have now. But I think it would be a terrible idea if they tried to do factions with such a little roster, and especially how the women's division kind of began with all those factions. It's not something, something we've seen before already, probably more times over the last couple of years than what we should have.
I think
go ahead, Joe.
If they treated the women's roster like they did, 205 or the European, not give them their own show, but keep them, Jared said, one division. I think that you could have a faction, and I think that you could even throw in maybe a women's tag team title, which I think they deserve.
Sure.
To give it more credibility, and then a faction like the 4 Horsemen would work. You could have a faction that, much like the Horsemen did, kind of ruled the talent.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I think that would be smart. I just don't think it's now. And I'm a big fan of factions. I mean, Jared makes fun of me because I love factions so much. But, I mean, I just say throw guys together and just create, I was, when the 3-man band was together, I thought that's a good use for those guys. They just throw them together. It's not a great faction, but it's a faction, and it works. So I like factions. I probably shouldn't. But I just think that it would – I don't think it would be beneficial right now because – they just don't have like Jared said, they just don't have the roster depth. To do factions like that, you have to have roster depth, and they just don't have it right now.
They're going to have.
Joe, where you at? Jared, where you at in the pay-per-view?
I just saw the winner of the match.
Okay. Of the ambulance match?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
I
been
guess.
over like about a minute.
Okay, we're on the same spot. Joe, you in the same spot too? You're probably ahead, aren't you?
What's on your screen?
Roman just came out of the ambulance.
Okay, I'm ahead.
Okay. Wait, is the match not over?
No, the match is over. The
Okay,
fight's not over though.
I was about to say, okay.
Reigns better slow down.
Do you have to drive the ambulance away before the match is over?
Okay, that's what I thought. When he hit the back of the ambulance, I thought, well, it didn't drive away, so I'm not really sure what's going on.
Do you have to take him to the hospital? I mean, God, he's driving awful fast down that narrow hallway.
He ain't started. I'm about to see him drive here in a minute.
Oh,
whoa! Holy crap! I'm glad nobody's behind that curtain when he drove through there.
Oh my God. I just fell in love with the Steve even more.
What in the world was he doing?
How much does the ambulance cost?
Oh, that's an artistic shot, part 1.
Anybody know?
Is that bus going to fly over the ambulance?
Uh-oh. He's going to reverse it. What is he doing?
Anybody know how much the ambulance costs? Or a big screen like the big destroyed too?
Well, they've destroyed a portion of the big screen. They have destroyed an ambulance. They have dented a truck, a transport truck.
This match might be a $1 million match.
One of the last questions that he had was the last question. Maybe should Bray Wyatt just one time call out his next opponent and claim that he knows they don't pay their taxes? He said that would make a heck of a legend with smart fans. That would be pretty awesome, actually.
that would be great.
That would be pretty funny. Joe, I can barely hear you.
I said, why don't they go through the driver's door and go into the back of the ambulance and try and get the door open? Roman Reigns locked it. We can't break a window, though. I mean, we've already destroyed the ambulance. It's like
why not just peel the back of that truck off?
Why did they have Jamie Noble try to pry the door open?
Braun Strowman is like a dog that's kind of locked in a vehicle right now.
Just don't let it get too hot in there.
Nope.
They're all panicking because they can't get this dog or toddler out of the car. And all they have to do is break a window, you know?
Do what?
That guy called a big toe.
Kurt Angle? Don't make fun of Kurt Angle. He's an American hero. My wife just said that Kurt Angle looked like a big toe.
I mean, he looks like a big something.
You know, he kind of does look like a big toe.
Have you ever seen the Thumb movies?
No.
Like Bat Thumb and the Blair Thumb? And
Can I just say I really like Kurt Hawkins? I know he's like my favorite jobber, but he's actually pretty funny.
I mean, this match right here, this is going to be the match of the night. Hawkins
and Slater?
And Slater, yeah, man. It's going to be matching that right here. Just watch. It didn't implode, Michael Cole. Did you see that ambulance implode? They say you know it's going to blow up.
What would you do if they sent these guys out there and they had like a 5-star classic match?
I'd love it.
Cell phone is closed.
Yes, Kurt Hawkins.
What's his face on his clothes?
I know it's kind of his gimmick.
It's kind of
Is that like wearing your the band T-shirt to the concert?
Yes,
No.
that's like when the band wears their own T-shirt on stage.
I've seen that a few times.
I know it's terrible, isn't it? It's like we know. It's like we know who you are, dude. You don't have to.
That's like if we would have went to Dollywood Days of Praise and Rob from Pillar would have wore a Pillar t-shirt.
Yeah.
Which is really weird they was at Dollywood. But
well, they was never invited back after that either.
Because there was a
they
mosh
thought
pit.
they was a gospel band, apparently.
There's probably some like gospel quartet called the Pillar or something like that. What's everybody standing up?
Well, it was funny, like because they
everybody's prairie dogging. Are y'all seeing this right now?
Who on the
crowd? Yeah, the crowd. The whole crowd's prairie dogging.
Oh no, I haven't. I figured they're gonna send somebody out during this match.
No, nobody's coming out.
Oh, somebody must have gotten a fight then.
No, it's fire truck. It's fire trucks coming.
Oh.
So you can hear them, and everybody's prairie dogs.
I love how they take away from the action of the match.
Because they don't want these guys to steal the show.
Must be what it is.
Oh, nobody's looking at the people wrestling.
Even Shauna was like, nobody's looking at the people wrestling.
It's a filler match.
I mean,
yeah, but you still give them their time.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of like when UFC runs the prelims before like the main event because they had such short matches.
You remember that time we watched Lesnar fight, and afterwards there was a completely another match?
Yeah.
Like Lesnar was the main event, and we were like, what's going on?
Hey, who won? I heard the bell ring. Just break the window. I'm telling you all. You break the window.
Nope, they got to get out the jaws of life. Imagine how much money that costs.
Engine 1.
I bet they're not breaking that one.
Oh, look, the jaws of life.
Oh, that's the jaws of life I'm here. I thought somebody was moaning that loud.
Charlotte just pointed out it's the U.S. Air Force.
I thought that that fireman holding that crowbar was moaning really
That's the
loud.
jaws of life. Uh-oh. This is serious, guys. That's one big pair of needle-nose pliers.
Oh my God, they can't even get the jaws of life to work.
After they brought the jaws of life.
I mean,
the jaws of life cut through it, not tried to extend it.
I don't know.
Are they using it wrong?
These are just indie wrestlers acting like firemen.
You never know.
I think they're trying to pop the door. If you know, it'd be awesome if he just like kicks the door open, like screw you guys. I've been in here too long.
Well, they open the door and he's eating like a ham sandwich, just kind of sitting there. It's like a regular dude.
Say Big Toe.
You don't make fun of Kurt Angle like that. He's an American hero.
He is an American hero.
I know he's an American hero.
He wouldn't go metal with a broken neck.
No, a freaking broken neck.
Yeah. I mean, if these guys were really firefighters, I feel like I would have been dead if this was a real. I mean, thank God there wasn't any more EMT workers inside. I mean,
they're treating this like it's a Monday Night Raw. That's how.
Why are we not seeing wrestling right now? Why can't we do a split screen or something? I like Heath Slater. I like Kurt Hawkins.
The match is
that match is over.
Yeah, did you not hear the bell?
Oh, I thought I heard the bell, but I didn't.
Yeah. Get him on the gurney. One guy's in there. He's gonna get him on the gurney by himself. He's not in here.
Yeah, Shauna doesn't think he'll be in there.
He forgot to come back in after they done the Deepful Thoughts with Ron Strowman or with Roman Reigns.
Guys, I hate to tell you this. You're gonna need a lot more people to get him out of there.
Oh, he's not.
Roman couldn't lift him. Those guys aren't going to lift him.
He just pushed him away.
So rumor has it that a guy on Twitter that I follow, I have to look him up and give him a shout out. But I want to say TrustKill260, if he's still on, thanks for the very nice compliment. He said, you guys do a great job. I just subscribed. Love that beard. Joe should invest in a microphone. I agree. Let me see.
Bloody. Come on. After all that, we need some blood.
WWE doesn't do that.
It's PG.
I mean, he's pretty bloody. But for a PG WWE.
It looked like he bandaged himself while he was in there.
Hey, he
had that on in the match.
He used to live in the Wyatt family compound. They took care of themselves when they got hurt.
Blood.
Oh, he is bleeding. I bet that's not real blood. I bet it's blood packs.
On his arm?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
That's.
I'm sure it is.
Hey, I watched a guy cut his arm with an axe one time.
Oh, maybe he's
whose bus is that? He's got blood all over that bus. Usman's gonna be mad.
Oh, this is my favorite.
Hopefully, if he's lucky it's not Randy Orton or he might poop in his food. Oh my God! Did you see Kurt Angle's face? He was like, "What is this guy? Oh my God! He's a demigod." That face, that's what it looked like. Like, look at him. He's like, he's a demigod. Oh my God! How do you survive that?
Oh, that's an impressive shot there. There's the blood trail I was looking for. Well, there we go. Bloody face. I missed his bloody face.
I love the lady in the background taking pictures with her cell phone.
Yep. Now he's gonna lift the bus above his head.
He's not flipped the bus. I'm so mad.
Who's this chick?
Those are all indie wrestlers behind them. I can pretty much guarantee that. Those are probably local like small town wrestlers that they hired to be part of the.
You know who they need to be to hire on? Bobby Houston.
Bobby Houston, baby.
Hey.
And the Nature Boy. What was the Nature Boy's name?
No, Nature Boy. I can't remember his name, but remember the Iron Cross? Remember?
Yeah.
Iron Cross is still. They made a movie about him.
Did they?
I don't know.
Hey, we almost saw Bobby Houston win the NWA Junior Heavyweight Southern Championship.
You want to add any more words to that?
I was trying to think of some more, but I ran out.
At the high school?
At Appalachia?
Yep.
Did you go to the one at Five Alley?
No, me and Aaron called the one at Appalachia.
Yeah, it was fun, wasn't it, Jared? It was awesome.
It was.
The one at Pie Valley, the dude that sold the Ric Flair gimmick, I made him break character twice.
So they have to turn Rollins. They have to turn Reigns heel now because he basically tried to murder somebody, right?
Have to be, yeah.
Oh, I think what's his face's face in the background.
Well,
I mean, Hogan didn't turn heel after he killed the Giant when he pushed him off the building. So
off the ledge.
Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar might not be a long match. So
they got
10:45.
Yeah, they got 15 minutes.
I mean, how do you follow an attempted murder?
With a murder.
With a murder.
So who's going to go over?
Lesnar.
Is it going to be Lesnar and Strowman at SummerSlam, or will it? I think Heyman will turn on.
I think Heyman will turn on Joe. I told you guys that 2 weeks ago.
I'd love to see Heyman turn on him.
Or they're hinting at it really hard and then trying to get us in that he won't do it. Because from the very first Samoa Joe promo in this match, what did he say? I want everything Brock has. I want Heyman as my advocate. I want the big money. And then on one of the pre-show interviews, one of the questions on Twitter was, would Paul Heyman ever consider, representing Samoa Joe? And so they're hinting at it really hard. It may be kind of like a MacGuffin here, but I think that's the way that he goes over if that's the case.
And run. But
they have, just like me and Joe's talking about, they have a unique opportunity to make a new monster. Like if Brock ever left, they have Braun Strowman, obviously, but like a wrestling technical monster in Samoa Joe.
Did y'all know who Ron Funches is, the comedian?
Yeah.
On Twitter, he just put, man, they really overestimated how not boring watching a fireman open a door would be. Oh, man.
Then one of the funny, I wanted to end with this question. He said, "How many awful names did they shoot down before Hunter said Great Balls of Fire? It's the best. It's the best we got."
It wasn't Hunter. It was Vince McMahon. I told you, he's always been. He's always talking about how big his balls were back in the.
That's true.
It was him. He's a great balls of fire. That's what Linda calls me in the bedroom. It's called the that.
I mean, they should have done the Great American Bash. Like, it's there, guys. Like, it's.
I know. Then they used it for so long with the previous SmackDown.
Yep. Well, they could. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the Rocket League stuff. But have you seen a lot of the memes on Twitter, Jared, on it? People just like putting up like flaming testicles on like the Titantron stuff. It was pretty funny.
You mean that's not what these are?
Yeah, they didn't help themselves with the what they came up with as the design. So
I mean, that's what they really look.
That's
like.
basically what they are.
Now, I have seen several of the pictures where like the wrestlers' heads have been in front of some of the words, and like one of them said "eat," and
Big Cass said "big."
Yeah,
yeah,
it covered up the C in Big Cass. I saw that one too. Oh, they need to do a better job with the monitor placement.
Man, this match is only to have like 5 minutes.
I think we'll give it extra time. This is WWE Network, man. They don't have to pay for overages.
That's true.
Is this just on the network?
Yeah.
No, they still do.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
I think it's just on the network. I think, isn't it?
I have no clue.
I mean, probably.
At some point, everything's going to be on the network, but.
I mean, if it's not just on a network, then it's up in like the 800 channels.
Honestly, for them, well.
Because DirecTV and Comcast thought it was like an adult movie. WWE presents Great Balls of Fire. Pay-per-view
it's a terrible name, isn't it, man? I just can't understand how that got out of the. I mean,
can we please start a hashtag WWE pay-per-views that sound like a porno? I'm gonna start that right now.
I will say this year, I think they've done a good job of. Me and Joe was talking about maybe the booking of this pay-per-view. I think that they've actually done a very good job of booking most of these matches to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think its build up for Joe and Lesnar has been really good. So I hope it's not, hope it doesn't let anybody down. But I think the build up itself has been really good.
I was trying to think about what would be the best way to book this match because, I mean, with as much tension as you have between them, you don't want a one shot and then blow it off.
Right.
This is something you could really build on for a while.
Well, I think that's why, even because I know the rumor has it's going to be Braun and Lesnar at some point down the line.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they want the belt involved with that because I think Braun does. I mean, Braun has been amazing. I think that he definitely deserves a title run because he's shown that he can work with a lot of different sizes, even as monstrous as they've kind of booked him. I think that they could let Samoa Joe win this match and still do Strowman and Lesnar down the line and just have a trilogy like him and Taker did. Mm-hmm. And I think it would make a lot more sense because, you have Lesnar maybe lose to him twice and then win it the third time and then have him and Braun at SummerSlam or something. I mean, they really have a good chance to build up Samoa Joe and say, hey, I beat Lesnar twice. Who's done that? Type of thing.
I love Samoa Joe's music.
Yeah, Samoa Joe's entrance music is awesome.
You got another person on here. Hey, nerds.
So it's, hey, Stu Nicely, what's up, man? We are nerds. We're wrestling nerds.
Yep.
I just think Samoa Joe's a star. Like I've always thought Samoa Joe was a star.
He is, in my eye.
I mean, a lot of times Vince was just concerned on looks.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't been for that, Joe probably would have been here a long time ago.
Sure.
I mean,
sure. And Owens.
Joe is a bigger dude, but I mean, Joe's in great shape. And so is Owens. I'm not saying Owens is, but at least
Joe's trimmed down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you think Owens paved the way for Joe?
Sure.
Because of his size. I mean, just bring him up to the main roster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be quite honest, you hear the stories. I watched a little bit of Kevin Owens' DVD. They put like an hour preview on there on the network that I watched. And, Paul Heyman was instrumental in a lot of these guys coming over. Like Joe talks about, he was released from TNA's contract. He didn't, his contract up. He didn't resign. He didn't really know what he was going to do. And somebody had reached out to Paul Heyman, and he called him and said, "Hey, man, would you like for me to talk to Triple H for you?" Same with Kevin Owens. Like that's the same thing that happened to Kevin Owens as well. Was that Paul Heyman called out, and so Heyman. I think that's it'd be great to see Heyman kind of get aligned with Samoa Joe, which could very well, if they book him right, could be a next Brock Lesnar, as far as how they would book him.
I know when Joe first left TNA, I think he was either on Austin's podcast or Chris Jericho. I think it might have been Jericho's. And Jericho asked him what he was going to do. And AJ was really pushing hard to try to bring him over to New Japan.
Yep.
I think I'm glad he's in WWE. I think he'd have been amazing in New Japan too. But
oh my God, he could have been part of the Bullet Club.
I don't know if he would have been.
I think he would. I think he would have fit in with Okada's stable better.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, he's just kind of either he's on his own. You just don't picture Joe as a stable type person.
Even though I did like when they put him with MVP
Homicide.
And when it was MVP and what's his face, the crazy guy, Loki.
Oh yeah.
When they did like the beatdown crew or whatever, I thought that was something that TNA did that they didn't really capitalize on.
I'm not going to go ahead and say this. I mean, Joe might have just a little bit bigger of a gut, but there's not much difference.
No,
between him and
he slimmed down a lot.
Lesnar's a little bit more toned, but as far as like width and stature, I mean, they're almost the same person.
Yeah. You know who Samoa Joe reminds me of a lot?
Who?
Mark Hunt.
Yeah.
He's gonna knock Brock out right here. I think Samoa Joe would really win in a fight if these two really fought.
I hate that they named it the Universal Championship. They should go like the Global Championship or something.
Yeah, I hate the Universal Championship. I hate the belt too. That's the ugliest belt.
I don't mind the belt.
The belt's actually nothing's worse than the spinner.
Yeah, that was the worst.
I actually don't mind the belt now. It actually looks pretty neat now. But
I think that wall is supposed to break. Somebody put an extra screw in it. Oh, good lord! Hey, notice that there was no TV monitors on that table already.
I didn't notice that. Good heads up there.
I mean, there's no cables. There's no nothing. Well, no, there's cables. I see the cables. I don't see the monitor. That's smart. I like the start of this.
I mean, me too.
This is going to be like the Lesnar Goldberg match. Very hard hitting, very quick.
Yeah.
And then it'll be over.
I like it so far because even if he doesn't win, they've already established Joe as a guy that can go toe to toe with him.
Mm-hmm.
Man, did Goldberg even pick up Lesnar and Jack Hammer? I can't remember that last.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? Both matches. Or they only had 2 matches, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah, two. That's right. I like how they just throw out remember the 30-day rule for so long? You had to defend your title in 30 days or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that no longer exists.
I just watched one of the In Your Houses where Shawn Michaels couldn't defend it because of concussions, and they basically handed it over to Dean Douglas.
Yep, I remember that.
Are they chanting Brock's gonna kill you? Joe?
I was talking to Joe. We was talking a little bit before you got on here, Jared, that this is definitely a match that we never thought we'd see.
Oh, I know.
I
mean, you think about, well, since Joe's been in TNA, I don't think Lesnar had been in the WWE, really until right at the very end, because Lesnar got out for football.
Yep.
And then he went to when Joe come to TNA, like 2004.
Yeah. Joe's so awesome in the ring.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous how good he is.
How stiff you think those shots are in there?
I say they're pretty stiff. I think that's the only way to get Lesnar to respect you is to hit him stiff, because he's going to hit you stiff right back.
Yeah. Now, like when Joe was punching him in the side of the head outside the ring, those looked pretty stiff. If not, that was a great working punch.
You remember?
Oh, he's going to try to wrestle him.
You remember when Lesnar was taking on like the entire Riot family, and Braun Strowman didn't take a clothesline, and Lesnar got pissed off and pretty much almost killed Strowman in the ring? You all remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
I think these two could really these two can really work together very well, because I think they could take a lot of punishment, both of them.
I think one of these days Lesnar will really knock somebody out on accident. Like because those knees are pretty hard, man. Somebody put their head in the wrong place at the wrong time, just knock them out.
Yeah, it'd be over pretty quick.
Jared, did you ever hear that story, speaking of something that could accidentally happen, did you ever hear that story about Rick Martel? Maybe you told me that the first Royal Rumble, Rick Martel was supposed to go out a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. He was supposed to go over, and they missed his spot or something like that.
Yeah. And he stayed in there for didn't he set the record or something starting off? It was like 46 minutes, but he's only supposed to know like 20 or something.
Yeah, and then finally they sent somebody down. They're like, get him out of there. Martel was a great worker, though. He was really underutilized.
That was Tito. Both those guys could work. Nobody's business.
Yeah, of course, Tito, if they had been pushing harder to get into Mexico, Tito was going to be the guy instead of Brett.
Yeah. God, talk about changing history there.
Yeah. I mean, I think Brett would have got it eventually. Anyway, but, I mean, yeah, Tito, the El Matador gimmick was kind of worthless.
Yeah, that was dumb. Been pretty good so far. I think Joe paces a match really well. Like, he's a big dude. You can tell that, if he gets going too quick, too fast all the time, that I think Joe
can lay on somebody and
Yep. And just like this right here, like his storytelling ability is just sit there and stare at somebody. But he's resting. It's not like he's rolling outside and laying there for, 15 minutes like Roman does.
Yeah. That's from all those years of ROH.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn so many different styles.
Because I think guys, like, people say that it's all indie guys do, just go up and down. Some of them do, but then there's guys like Joe or Punk or AJ that knows how to slow down a match right when it needs to be.
Joe's matches with the Briscoes, when he would do some damage and then he would just methodically walk and punish them.
Yeah.
I mean, just very slowly. It was great.
I think it's funny that all Brock has to do is step in the ring and he just breaks out like a massive sweat.
His face starts turning red.
Yeah. Like he's drenched. Like, I've never seen somebody just step in the ring and just is drenched from the get-go. Like, Joe's a big dude and he sweats a lot, but man, Brock is just like a button, man.
Joe don't turn like plum face.
That's true. Boy, remember that first Undertaker match he had? I thought he was going to die.
I wonder if he has blood pressure issues.
Probably.
No, he wouldn't be in there if he had blood pressure
No,
issues.
that's probably
Those
true.
doctors are so strict now.
Whoa.
I think it's just his work.
Yeah.
He's eating like 8,000 calories a day just to maintain his weight.
I think it's crazy how somebody like Lesnar eats that much and is that like he's monster. And you look at someone like Michael Phelps that eats that much too, and he's like skinny as a rail. It's like two totally different ways of doing it, but it's crazy. It can produce like two totally different types. It's the same thing, just two different body types.
It's not the same thing though. Lesnar's in the weight room doing it. Phelps doesn't want to get bulky. He wants to stay. He wants to have
but it's the same. It's the same concept though.
He's growing on lean muscle. Yeah.
Yeah, he's growing lean.
I'm just talking about. I think it's crazy that just basically they eat the same way, and because of the way that they train, it's crazy how those calories can be turned into something completely different. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Lesnar's problem though is if you don't keep maintaining that, then it'll either turn to fat or flab.
Right, that's true.
Well, I think Lesnar's issue is he likes the beer.
Wow.
He's got a little. That's where that gut comes from.
In real life, it would be about impossible to
choke out Brock Lesnar.
Choke out Brock because his traps are so huge.
Yeah.
You should have got him in an armbar like Frank Mir.
Has he ever been choked out? He's been submitted before, but uh-oh.
Twitter said Lesnar's face is turning into a great ball of fire right now.
Brock Lesnar just looks like a real life Simpson character.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? It looks like a character out of Dragon Ball Z.
That logo is horrible.
That what?
That logo.
I know it's terrible.
Brock has a tramp stamp.
He does.
Hey, those were popular in '99.
For men and women.
When he it was. Remember Nick Lachey and his brother both had them.
Well, we might see this feud continue, guys.
I think it should.
With the way that Joe's looking at Lesnar.
Oh yeah.
It's a good. That was actually a good main event.
I like the way they booked
it. I thought they made Joe look really strong too.
Yeah.
I mean, after every match, it looks like Brock Lesnar's laid out on the beach for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Look at Heyman. Keeps turning backwards.
I think we'll see Heyman with Samoa Joe at some point. So we got one last question before we get off here, guys, from TrustKill260, who's hung out with us pretty much the whole time. It says, how will the massive success of Cody Rhodes affect indie guys from coming to WWE? Clear WWE creative saw little potential in him and has been amazing in ROH. Me and Joe, just get your touch on it. Me and Joe talked about a little bit about how, guys like the Young Bucks and Omega, who has made their money without WWE, especially the Young Bucks, has really kind of created their own niche in the indie market and has become big stars without any of WWE's help. How that affects guys like Omega and them not wanting to come over, someone like a Jay Lethal or something that they know that they can make money on the indies and kind of market themselves. What do you think? Especially Joe brought up Cody beforehand, especially Cody's success in ROH and in New Japan. How does that affect those indie guys from kind of coming over?
I think it just gives them another opportunity. But there are a lot of them that's where they want to be in WWE.
Right.
I think Cody eventually, I think he'll finish his career in WWE. I think he'll come back at some point. But I think that the success of those guys just shows that if you're willing to work at it, that you can make that living without the company. I think you'll see a lot of them go that route that may not want to be, in that creative machine that WWE has,
Right.
or feel like they get lost when they can create it themselves. But like, growing up, there's always the people that's all they strive for. Who's I was listening to Brian Kendrick. Was it Brian Kendrick? Or he was talking with Stone Cold, and he said, out of everywhere he's been, that's where he feels like he belongs, is in WWE. That's where he's always strived to be. No matter how good he was in ROH or anywhere, he feels like he wants to be in WWE. So, you have those type of people too.
Well, even Punk, I mean, even he said, when he's grown up, we want to be WWE.
Yeah.
And I think even to this day, like Bobby Roode talks about, even in TNA, you always wanted to be in WB because that was the pinnacle. Yeah. And even hearing like the Young Bucks and stuff talk about it, they talk about a lot of it like, at some point, I'm sure we'll end up in the WB at some point. We're just enjoying what we're doing now. And I think, with the invention of Twitter and YouTube and all that stuff, I think these guys can come in with a lot more momentum. Like, people know who the Young Bucks are. Like, people know who Kenny Omega is, so it's not like someone coming in that's repackaged, to be something else. I think that helps. Jared, one of the things that me and Joe talked about was how this could have like a reverse effect for WB. You see ROH and you see New Japan almost combining their powers together a little bit to try to become this second type of big promotion. And obviously New Japan's trying to get a foothold over here. ROH has been here for years and finally, getting a little bit more mainstream press than what they have been. But do you see it a time where, we talked about how Dean Ambrose, the rumor has it that he hates doing a lot of the promotional stuff that WB has. Mm-hmm. He just wants to wrestle and be kind of Dean Ambrose. Do you think it opens up for, someone like Dean Ambrose not wanting, it's got brought up because Austin Aries asked for his release and he got released because obviously, they weren't really using him for much. Do you think at some point, like someone like a Dean Ambrose or a Seth Rollins or a Samoa Joe shows up on ROH? Do you think that has the reverse effect that WB wants? Because obviously these guys are big stars on the independents. Now they get built up in WB, and then all of a sudden they're almost jumping to another promotion like the old school days. Do you think that kind of brings back that dynamic now?
To some extent. I think we'll see more next year because, when ROH, or not ROH, but New Japan, they, they had a 2,000 seat arena and they sold out, in like under an hour or whatever. And they said they could probably sold 8,000 to 10,000 tickets for it, but they didn't. I don't know if not that they didn't believe in themselves, but they kind of underestimated the fan base here. And so I think, that next tour that they've already started planning, I think that this was kind of like a motivation, and that'll kind of be a big push. And I think Omega is huge behind that, especially being the United States champion, that representative for New Japan now. And so if Ambrose goes to ROH or New Japan or even, I hate to say it, Global Force right now, it keeps getting a boost in ratings ever since they switched brands.
Yeah.
I think Impact, being labeled Impact, had a very negative feel to a lot of people.
Sure.
And that Global Force now is kind of something fresh for them. And, you've got Del Rio over there.
You got Lashley.
You've got some names over there. And even, Cody Rhodes was there for on and off. He shows up from time to time. So, he's on all three.
Right.
He's on all the big ones. So, I think it will, like for Ambrose and some of the others that don't like that WWE machine, it'll give them an out and a way to possibly make even more money.
Sure. I just think it'd be cool to just be like, it's huge for Cody showing up where all the places he does. And we think Cody is great and has the, should have been a real big star in WWE. And really, I think WWE missed their chance when he was doing the bag gimmick and being, what is it, beautiful Cody Rhodes or dashing Cody Rhodes. I think that gimmick was great when he was IC champ, and you could actually kind of even trace back what they've done with the IC title back to when Cody had it. We brought it back to the white title and kind of made it a little bit more special. If I just, I was telling Joe, I think in the grand scheme of things, you'll always have guys like, I think, Roman and some of these guys that will always be WB guys. Mm-hmm. But, a Seth Rollins who has history with ROH all of a sudden shows back up in ROH, and that's a huge deal now.
Yeah, I don't know much about Seth's feelings on WWE, but yeah, if he did, that would be a huge boost. Or even Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
There's talk of him circulating, once his contract's up, he'll be gone. And, because he tweeted out about a possible match. Was it with Cody Rhodes, maybe? I think
it was with someone, and it was a dream match, and I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think it may have been Cody Rhodes. But, yeah, I don't know if anybody will ever catch up to him, though. I think that's impossible. But you might see somebody that can get some talent away, and they're like, listen, you're making $150,000, but you're having to pay $50,000 out to book all your tickets, to pay for your own hotel.
Yep.
We're gonna bring you in. We'll pay for your hotel and your transportation. You keep all your merchandising, stuff like that. And I would be interested to see what the Young Bucks bring in a year. I mean, I know it's probably $200,000 to $300,000. I bet.
Well, they talked about it was on Edge and Christian's podcast, and they said they made more this year than they had the last 6 or 7 combined. Yeah. I mean, it's they talked about remembering buying $1 hamburgers just to kind of make it from month to month or whatever, and people, I love those guys. I think they're just fun to watch, and you could tell that they really love what they do, and I'm happy that there are wrestlers out there because WB is a machine. And, there's not going to be any wrestler union or anything like that. Some of the stuff, they're under contract, but they're not, they're independent contractors, all that stuff at WWE, kind of pulls on it. And I think that to see those guys like Omega and the Young Bucks, make money and say, hey, you can do it without WWE. And then when we do go to WWE, we're going to make a ton of money, because of what we've already done. I think it's great. I think it just helps the industry as a whole.
I think they'll build it up till it can't possibly get any higher, the talk, and then they'll be like, all right, let's go finish this off and close out that chapter.
Yeah, I think a lot of these people, take AJ, for instance. AJ's one paddles all over the place, and I think the thing that he wanted to finish is become a WWE world title holder.
Right. Like a lot of these guys, they've done everything. And I think before it, I don't think, especially now with the internet stuff, there's always that, hey, he never made to WB. He was never successful. I think it plagues Dean Douglas, for example. Like he wasn't as successful as he probably should have been in WB. Now, whether or not that was his fault or backstage politics, it's up for the debate. But I think it still haunts guys like that. Like Raven, I think it still haunts, not necessarily them personally, but their overall legacy, I guess. They never had a good run in WB. I think Raven could have been awesome in WB.
Raven had several pretty good runs.
In WB?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as Raven, though.
Yeah, as Raven, he had a good run. He wasn't Intercontinental champ.
No, he was just hardcore champ.
Hardcore champ, yeah.
That was it.
But he hung around there for a long time. Now, he didn't have the run that he should have had.
No. I mean, it's arguable. I mean, he had a great run at WCW.
Yeah. I was thinking to somebody else earlier. They were talking about Steven Regal. Mm-hmm. And, Steven Regal had an incredible run. You remember when he was doing the Power of the Punch with RVD and the Intercontinental belt, and everybody hated him. They would never put him in the position, but he would have been a great heel champ. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could work anybody on top, and that was just somebody that never.
I think that he could have been like JBL,
Yeah, or Nick Bockwinkel.
Or Nick Bockwinkel or something.
He's a very throwback. Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thanks for a big thank you to Trustkill 260 for hanging out with us tonight. I don't know if he's still here, but I appreciate all the questions. It helps when we have somebody chatting over here, asking us questions when we watch the pay-per-views. Thank you to Stu Nicely, who popped up for a little bit, Lawson Austin, Dante Halton, and, of course, KM Gaming and more, who popped in earlier with us tonight. Thanks for everybody who hung out with us tonight. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Jared. And don't forget our podcast, Monsters of Geek Podcast. We'll be putting out some new episodes soon. Had some problems with GarageBand, and I've just now recorded the new intro. So got a couple episodes in the queue ready to go. And then, of course, me, Joe, and Jared will probably do a wrestling podcast at some point. And get back on that as well. But, yeah, so for Joe and Jared, we're out.